Even when I was still in my mother's belly, I knew my life was completely set. The general's grandfather, the founder's grandmother, the eldest uncle in the military, and the richest father in the world. This kind of lineup was something I wouldn't even dare to dream of in my past life. Although this family came with built-in crazy genes and not a single normal person, crazy as they were, none of their achievements fell short. So what if my twin sister and I are a little crazy? Just like that, the two of us, little jade-carved dainties, were born into the world. My sister was a little iceberg. She learned to keep a poker face at such a tiny age, except her little hands would always instinctively grip me tight, as if afraid I would vanish into thin air. My mother had a much better mindset. Whenever she woke up, she would play hand-holding games with her for a bit. And life was pretty comfortable. But there was just one extremely bizarre thing. The two of us had been at Manhwa Garden for almost half a month, yet we hadn't caught sight of a single parental shadow. The imperial physicians were already used to it, and I secretly overheard them whispering privately that this was the old rule of the May family. The previous few young masters and misses were also raised this way. Oh well, so it turns out this family isn't just crazy. They're also all cold-blooded animals to the core. But I didn't care at all. I had already suffered enough in my past life. So having a top-tier starting hand in this life meant a little bit of cold treatment was nothing to talk about. Besides, it was quite good that they didn't come for the time being, as it gave me a chance to get used to this little body and sort through my memories from my previous life. To be honest, my biological mother was also a ruthless character. The day she gave birth to me, lying on the operating table, the only thing calculating in her mind was money. 1 billion plus a manor in the IEC National Master Center. This was the birth price for the two of us siblings. She had a clear grasp of her own position. Marrying into a wealthy powerhouse like the Umezu family was wishful thinking, and she might even lose her life in the process. So she decisively took the money and ran, lying flat for the rest of her life. I even overheard her inner monologue. Don't blame her for being heartless. She only wanted the money and not us. I didn't hate her at all. After all, it was a fair transaction, and without her deal, how could I have this lifetime of wealth? What actually made me curious was my legendary richest father, who supposedly wanted nothing to do with us. Word had it that when he found out my mother had secretly given birth to us, his first reaction was to directly wipe us out in the physical sense. If grandfather hadn't intervened, the three of us would have been ice cold long ago. Yet this very man was now actually saying he was coming to Manhwa Garden to see us. This news was brought back by Rihito Ri. I lay in my crib, staring at the ceiling, my brain spinning rapidly. What was he here for? Didn't he despise us? Didn't he think we were annoying? Whatever. I wouldn't think about it anymore. Soldiers are met with shields and water with Earth anyway. And what kind of malicious intent could a baby who had just turned a month old have? The thought had barely formed when the luxurious grand doors of the villa slowly opened, and a luxury car parked steadily in front of the door. The housekeeper of Manhwa Garden, Mama Umezu, had been waiting respectfully for a long time. She was a veteran of the Umezu family and belonged to my grandmother's side, having even watched my father grow up. When Mama Umezu saw my father getting out of the car, her eyes lit up. "Sir, you've finally arrived." No one pitied the two of us more than she did. We had been born for so long, without even knowing what our biological father looked like. And she always muttered in her heart, "The young miss and young master are so cute. Why is Sir so heartless?" "Sir, shall I tidy up a room for you?" My father's face was completely expressionless as he directly rejected Mama Umezu. No, he had no intention of staying the night here at all. Mama Umezu's gaze dimmed a fraction, not daring to say another word, though. Her fondness and pity for the two of us increased even more. My father walked into the villa with the air of someone performing a routine duty. As luck would have it, he happened to catch me and my sister right at our midday nap time. Surrounded by a group of people, he stepped into the room, and at a glance he saw two snow-white little dumplings huddled tightly together, sleeping soundly. His gaze swept right past my sister, and finally locked onto my face, his eyes pausing and lingering for a long time without moving away. Is this little rice dumpling an older brother or a younger brother? To make it easier to distinguish between us, my sister and I wore different colored clothes, so she was clearly asking me. When Mama Umezu heard this, her eyes lit up instantly. She knew my father too well. If he could ask this, then the matter was already half successful. She knew in her heart that even if my father felt nothing for the two of us, no one dared to mess with the descendants of the Umezu family. Still, a childhood without parental love was ultimately incomplete. My biological mother had taken her 1 billion and walked away carefree. So if even our biological father ignored us, asking what the previous generation of the Umezu family went through, Mama Umezu certainly didn't want these ultra-cute little young masters and misses to repeat the same old tragic path. Mama Umezu hurriedly stepped forward to introduce, "Sir, this is the young master. He is the younger brother." My father didn't. His gaze fell on the little face sleeping soundly in the depths, its little nose twitching in and out. And in his dream, he was still smacking his pink, tender little lips. My father's fingers instantly started to itch. A little face like a rice dumpling must feel absolutely amazing to touch, right? In the end, he reached out. When his fingertips touched my soft, tender cheek, he paused, and then merely poked it with extreme caution. Mama Umezu gasped sharply, "Sir, please be gentle." But her warning was still too late, and she could only watch helplessly as a small red mark was poked onto my face. Rihitori, standing to the side, felt even more heartache, daring to feel angry but speaking no words. My father, who had never known what a guilty conscience was, stared at my cheek and stealthily rubbed his fingertips together, feeling somewhat afraid to acknowledge his own childish behavior just now. He thought to himself that this little milk baby was just too delicate. He really hadn't used any strength at all just now. He reached out once more, clumsily picking me up. Mama Umezu and the others watched with their hearts in their throats, terrified that a single unstable move from him would hurt my soft, squishy little body. Fortunately, although my father had never held anything so soft, his high IQ meant he quickly mastered the posture of holding a baby out of nowhere, looking surprisingly decent at it. I was woken up by the commotion and let out a milky yawn, opening my large grape-like eyes, chewing on my little fist, and staring unblinkingly at this outrageously handsome man before me. Yet the way he was holding me really made me unhappy. W-ya-ya, this baby is displeased and is going to throw a tantrum. I waved my 2 lotus root-like little arms and struggled. I want that fragrant, soft, and pretty sister to hold me. Seeing me, my father's aloof and lax brow furrowed, the casual detachment slowly fading away, though that handsome face still remained miles away from the word gentle. Seeing me brandishing my pink little fists, my father actually offered his own finger to me. The moment I grabbed it, a soft glint instantly flashed across the depths of his eyes, and he said in a low voice, "Little dumpling, I am daddy." My father had no idea that the moment his words fell, the secretary beside him was already looking terrified. That great demon king who could annihilate a business empire in the snap of a finger. "Boss, was that tone of yours just now? Was that gentleness?" The secretary silently glanced at the little young master in his boss's arms. Who could see such a jade-carved little milk dumpling and not have their heart melt into a puddle of water? To be honest, the secretary himself wanted to reach out and hold him. My father had no time to care what others were thinking. Originally, it was just a passing whim that he remembered he had 2 blood relatives he had never met. He neither lacked children nor liked them, and scoffed at so-called family affection, especially since he already had 2 heirs. Therefore, the existence of my sister and me was purely an accident to him, even a trouble. Before seeing me, he was still the ruler of the business group whom everyone feared and desperately tried to suck up to, never believing he would have any weak spots in this lifetime. But now, the finger I was clutching curled slightly, and the gaze falling on me was so gentle it could wring out water. Yet I was not going to be his weak spot. I would only be his fatal reverse scale. Suddenly, a heaven-shattering cry burst out from the side, startling me so much that my whole body shuddered. My father immediately reached out to cover my ears, his gaze turning icy as he swept a cold look toward my sister, who was wailing loudly in the crib. Without a moment's pause, my father turned around, holding me, and strode out of the room. The tall, handsome man walked while softly coaxing the precious baby in his arms. Precious, good baby, don't be afraid. Daddy is here. We're not afraid. This doting tone gave the secretary, who had just recovered his wits, a fresh round of goosebumps all over his body. But this baby felt aggrieved and refused to buy it at all, hearing my sister's cries from inside. My little mouth drooped, and I began to gasp, my big eyes filling to the brim with teardrops, looking utterly wronged. My little body curled up into a ball in his arms, sobbing intermittently. Clearly, I hadn't wailed aloud like my sister did, yet my father froze entirely. He panicked and asked, "Baby, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" This man, who had walked the edge of life and death countless times without ever changing his expression, was now sweating profusely just from a few gasps of his son. "Baby, are you feeling uncomfortable?" He shot an icy glare at the dumbfounded secretary. "You! Why are you just staring? Hurry and call the doctor to check what on earth is wrong with the baby." The secretary got a violent jolt. "I'm right on it." Scrambling and tumbling, the secretary ran inside and dragged the doctor over. "What's going on? The baby is crying like this. Is he sick?" My father stared fixedly at the little one in his arms, his heart aching as if it were being tightly squeezed. Completely oblivious to the speechlessness on the faces of the doctor and Mama Umezu beside him, the doctor mentally ranted that the money of the wealthy was truly hard to earn, but on the surface, he still respectfully explained. "Mr. Umezu, the little baby's body is completely healthy. He's probably crying because twins have telepathic intuition, and the two babies cannot be separated too far apart." The doctor and the nannies were long since accustomed to this situation. Usually, my sister and I were well-behaved and adorable. But once we were out of each other's sight, the consequences were severe. The two of us could practically flip this roof off. Thus, the doctor cast a somewhat reproachful look at my father. My father's brow furrowed tightly. "Is that so?" Mama Umezu hurriedly nodded in agreement from the side. "It's true, sir. The young master and young miss share a deep bond. After all, they were born of the same pregnancy. How could they not be close?" My sobbing and oversized appearance broke my father's heart. He simply couldn't bear to see this little dumpling of mine cry. So he had no choice but to instruct the secretary to hurry up and bring that little rascal out. Sure enough, the moment the two little dumplings laid eyes on each other, their crying miraculously stopped. The moment I saw my sister in the secretary's arms, I grinned into a smile and tried my best to stretch my little hands toward him. The secretary also hastily and boldly leaned in so that my sister could reach me. The moment I saw my sister in his arms, I also tried my best to stretch out my little hands, and the two little hands clasped together amidst my father's uncomprehending gaze. My sister's innocent and bright smile caused my father's furrowed brow to relax slightly, and only then did he bestow a charitable glance upon that twin sister of mine. Assessment complete. She still wasn't as cute as the little dumpling in his arms. With just a single glance, my father reached this conclusion. Well, it made sense. Having one milk dumpling that could make his heart soften like this was enough. He didn't need another one coming to steal the little younger son's affection. Mingyu Garden had the world's top medical equipment and the Umezu family's exclusive private medical team. Could it be that this second son had suddenly changed his tune, feeling he wasn't a good dad? Or was he saying he was a hidden son? Previously, he had been so cold because the first two weren't sons. The names of those two granddaughters didn't have any such thoughtfulness. That old scoundrel had purely picked them at random based on birth order. The eldest didn't come, the second didn't have menstruation, and now the third had no conscience. These names were all given thanks to his younger sister. The crux was that he had even moved back to live in Mingyu Garden. The old master felt a few stirs of curiosity toward this unseen little grandson. "Old Chen, prepare the car. Let's go take a look at Mingyu Garden." He, as a grandfather, going to see his grandsons and granddaughters was only natural, right? Their Umezu family didn't lack granddaughters, but there was only this single seedling of a grandson. He had no idea that the old master was about to storm over to snatch his son away. The two of us were chubby and hugging our little feet, rolling back and forth on the playmat and laughing like ducks. That adorable look was simply off the charts. My father felt his heart melt completely and couldn't help picking up his phone, opening the camera, and recording every single cute look of mine. Looking at me in the video, his urge to show off simply could not be suppressed no matter what. So he tapped open a somewhat abnormal family chat group and tossed a 1-minute video right in. After sending it, ignoring whatever heavy bomb he had just dropped, he directly put down his phone, picked up the happily giggling sibling, and let Rihito-ri hand over a milk bottle as he began to feed milk with a proper, practiced demeanor. If it were back in the past, he would never have dared to dream he would do this kind of chore of tending to a brat. But now, as for him, he was completely, entirely willing and happy to do so. On the other side, the old master had just finished getting into the car when he heard the group chat, which never made a sound all year, suddenly go off, and not just once. Picking it up to take a look, good grief, it was actually sent by that rebellious second son. He casually tapped open the video, and the first things that came into view were 2 tender yellow little milk bundles. Old master couldn't help but watch it over and over again, repeatedly. Old master had spent his entire life in military campaigns, crawling out of piles of corpses. His heart had long since grown as hard as a stone, but now that cold, hard heart had been forcefully scratched with a crack by these 2 little milk dumplings in the video. At this moment, messages in the group chat were already scrolling across the screen one after another. The first to bubble up was the group owner, Mamoru, who was also my father's nephew and 22 years old this year. Usually, in front of the elders, he was as obedient and sensible as could be, but family members knew family secrets. Not a single person in our Umezu family was normal, and Mamoru's reputation as an obedient boy in the eyes of outsiders didn't hold up in the slightest. That was a genuine eldest young master whom countless people chased after and fawned on. Just because eldest young master Mamoru's background was far more than just impressive, his grandfather was one of the living pillars of the nation in Longguo, having participated in the founding wars. His grandmother, though no longer wedded into the core, was the founder of Yueming Corporation, the predecessor of the YM Group. And his maternal grandfather's Shen family was a true centuries-old prestigious family. The eldest, young master's father, Shogo, was currently a deputy official in the military, and his mother's natal family was also no ordinary background. This marriage belonged to a powerful alliance. The second uncle of eldest young master Mamoru, which was my father, was the helmsman of the YM Group and the richest man in Longguo. Eldest young master Mamoru's little uncle, Teiji, was likewise no simple figure. Because he loved to play, he controlled Longguo's largest entertainment company. Above eldest young master Mamoru, there was also an eldest sister, Raiko, who at a tender age was already a mayor's secretary. Mamoru was boredly scrolling through his phone when his gaze was instantly locked onto those 2 heart-melting little milk dumplings in the video. Second uncle, are these 2 little milk bundles my newly born younger sister and younger brother? Mamoru wore a face full of doting smiles as he saved all the videos. The people next to him saw Mamoru's expression suddenly change, their hearts giving a sharp squeeze as they cautiously asked what was wrong. You guys play, I have some business and need to go first. His mind was now entirely filled with that pair of cute little milk dumplings in the video, leaving behind a group of people staring at each other in blank dismay, instantly losing any mood for recreation. On the other side, Reiko, who had just finished work reporting, saw that crazy second uncle actually posting videos in the group and couldn't help being slightly stunned, tapping the basket open upon seeing the pink and jade-carved younger sister and younger brother. A warm smile instantly bloomed in her gentle eyes, and, without saying a word, she saved all the videos. Could these so cute little milk dumplings really be my paternal cousin and cousin? They look really nice, soft and squishy, just like little sweet rice dumplings. He opened a document, but impatiently furrowed his brow. Those normally interesting tasks now seemed utterly tasteless, far less interesting than the little rice dumpling in the video. At school, second older sister Tsukiko maintained a poker face. She was simply a replication machine, saving every face that bore a 3/10 resemblance to my father. That face was always as cold as frost. Is this really my younger brother? A hand rested on Raiko's shoulder. The person was Saki, the eldest daughter of the Saki family, who shared the same top-tier elite red family background as him. "My eldest sister, what are you muttering about over here?" Raiko gave a calm reply. "Nothing." The video played on loop so blatantly that showy camera angle was obvious to anyone with eyes. Saki's originally casual expression paused, her gaze instantly shifting from Reiko's face to lock onto the phone screen, clearly melted by the little milk dumplings in the video. Saki's tone carried a hint of uncertainty. "Younger brother and younger sister?" A chilling voice came from behind the two of them, coming from right behind them. It was actually the Umezu family's second-generation weirdo, Tsukiko. Saki couldn't help rubbing the goosebumps on her arms, instinctively wanting to stay as far away from Tsukiko as possible. Tsukiko glanced at Saki before withdrawing her gaze. She smiled sweetly as she looked toward eldest sister Raiko. "Eldest sister, what were you guys chatting about just now? Can you include me?" This young girl was also 15 years old, only a few months younger than Reiko. Yet her figure was already graceful, showing the early promise of an extraordinary future elegance. Saki silently hugged her arms closer. She knew too well that the more gently this person smiled, the more sinister her inner schemes were. Among the younger generation of the Umezu family, the craziest one of all was undoubtedly this gentle-looking young girl right before her. Raiko coldly glanced at this similarly aged younger sister. Though they were both daughters of someone unwanted, this younger sister was only a few months younger than her, and furthermore, it was common knowledge that Longguo's richest man, someone unwanted, had never married. They were paternal half-sisters. Pull out your own phone and take a look, and you'll find out. Tsukiko arched her brow and took out her phone. So that's how it is. Even though this 15-year-old girl inherently inherited my father's cold-blooded streak, upon seeing me in the video, she still took an immediate interest. Soft and squishy, I looked far more interesting than the gadgets in her laboratory. The sight of two beauties standing together was truly pleasing to the eye. Even Saki thought so. She couldn't figure out what was up with the Umezu family's genes. Although their personalities were all explosive, their faces were truly peerless. Inside the study, Umezu family's eldest, Shogo, was discussing important matters with his wife Hatsu when he was interrupted by the continuous notification chimes of the family group chat. No one could resist the cute critical hit of two little cute babies. Gentle as Hatsu was, she couldn't hold out either, always yearning to have a cute son. But their own child was simply beyond imagination. Now it was fine. The little milk dumplings in the video were quite literally her dream ideal babies. "Have the two babies been named yet? Hurry up and tell us what they're called." My father sent several more videos in a row, before stopping with satisfaction. Aikan, Kana. Having finally pulled himself away from a pair of matching tasks, Teiji finally had time to glance at the group messages. The moment he saw it was sent by my father, he instantly perked up. This group chat that stayed quiet all year actually had activity today, and it was stirred up by his crazy second older brother. What a rare sight. He casually tapped inside, and the moment he looked, this People's Police officer's urge to leave work early could no longer be placated. Oh, the little nephew and little niece are both born. How could he, as a little paternal aunt, possibly be absent? What if the little nephew grows up and blames him for not liking him? That settles it. I must leave work early. In the blink of an eye, it was another Shaji, summer solstice. With the approach of this day, not only was the weather in Jing City growing increasingly sultry, but even that top-tier circle symbolizing power began to experience undercurrents. There was no other reason than the fact that the Umezu family was holding a banquet. The protagonists were precisely the Umezu family's highly anticipated set of fraternal twins for their Juazu, first birthday fortune-telling ceremony. However, the invitations personally issued by the Umezu family caused those who received them to harbor mixed feelings and endless guesswork. For one thing, this was the first time the Umezu family had ever used such a title to issue invitations. Secondly, for a presence at the level of the Umezu family, wanting to do something required no reason at all. Naturally, Not just anyone was qualified to attend such a private banquet. Able to utter one or two words now, I was hugged in the arms of various family members from early morning. Being hugged and hoisted high had become a daily routine. As soon as one person finished hugging me, another would take over, leaving me without even a chance to touch the ground. Clinging to my side at all times was my twin sister, Yu. At this moment, I was sprawled in the arms of older brother Mamoru, letting her and housekeeper Anju fuss over me. Older brother was agonizing endlessly over a blue and a black set of small formal wear on the sofa, muttering that this piece looked handsome and that one looked good too, convinced that whatever I wore would look dashing. Holding my face, she cooed, "Baby, how can you be so cute? Big brother's eyes are getting tired from picking." Mamoru was quite troubled. His younger brother was cute to a fault, truly a sweet burden. Beside them, housekeeper Anju's anti-smile was stretched almost to her earlobes. She was the housekeeper specifically assigned to me by my father, looking after my sister and me, the most exquisite cute babies she had ever laid eyes on. Every day she felt a clean sense of loss that today it was once again not her turn to hold the little prince, which was heartbreaking. I blinked my round, grape-like big eyes with a face full of question marks, while my chubby little hand was attracted by the red gemstone necklace around my brother's neck. Wow, Big Brother's neck is sparkling. Big Brother is glowing. Mamoru was instantly melted by my sparkling-eyed look. He scooped up my chubby little face and gave me a fierce kiss. I blinked my eyes, my long eyelashes fluttering like little folding fans, and took the initiative to lean my other cheek forward, asking for another kiss. Mamoru gave another satisfied kiss. Today's dose of motivation was successfully recharged. Big Brother has also prepared a matching brooch for Baby O. Once you put it on, we'll be the brightest pair of brothers. That red gemstone necklace was no simple item. It had been cut from a single piece of raw stone. Big Brother had planned it out long ago to make matching brother pieces for us, and even designed a small wristwatch, though it was still too small for me to wear right now. Hearing that I too had something sparkling, my eyes curved into little crescent moons with delight. All right, then let's pick out Baby's little formal wear first. Mamoru could no longer wait to stun the entire audience together with us. I followed my brother's gaze toward those dozen or so small formal suits, and my little brows instantly furrowed. Although I was only 1 year old, I also loved looking cool, and my selective muteness was acting up. On the platform, Yu, who was pretending to play with a doll, actually hadn't taken her eyes off me the whole time. She glanced at the formal wear, and her little hand pointed. "That red one for younger brother looks nice." She lifted her small face, looking expectantly at her older brother and me. Mamoru looked at Yu's and his own clothing colors, then lowered his head to tenderly ask me, "What does Baby think?" Even though matching like this was nice, the younger brother still had to like it first. Who could possibly withstand the sparkling eye contact attack of a little milk dumpling? When the small, red, formal suit was decided upon, before I even had time to accept the daily quota of rainbow flattery, the door was pushed open, and that playboy little Uncle TG stood right at the entrance, his gaze unrestrained and full of character, as it locked onto me with a smiling voice. "Are our two handsome young gentlemen ready?" The Umezu family members' looks were already defying the heavens, let alone after meticulous styling. A little face con, immediately and excitedly stretched out my little hands, smiling with my eyes crinkled into sweet crescents as TG scooped me right out of my nephew's arms with a flourish. Looking at my all-red outfit, she simply adored it beyond measure. She pinched my cheek. "Whose little red packet is this? So festive." Having the little darling in her arms snatched away made Mamoru's face turn black as he silently shot several eye daggers. Mamoru could only wear a dark face and tell on the quiet Yu next to them. Older sister was also very cute, but she wanted that fragrant, soft younger brother from Just Now more. This was truly a case of family secrets within the family. The Umezu family members' cold and crazy nature was genetic. Familial affection to them was merely a word. Mamoru knew this very well, but as people who pursued power, status, and peerless looks, what did having a few personality flaws matter? Yet, this realization had been completely upended ever since the two of us milk dumplings were born. Especially me. This angel baby capable of melting their icy hearts had become the sole soft spot of this group of madmen. Who could truly dislike an angel baby smelling entirely of milk? TG's gaze landed on my head, gently touching the red gemstone rabbit brooch. Oh, how sparkly! Our Hoshiki is so pretty. When it came to her own cute baby, TG was never stingy with praise. In her eyes, I would look the cutest, even wearing a burlap sack. I raised my chubby little chin, given by older brother, of course it's pretty. Teiji raised a brow and gave a light huff. Pretty it was just a bit small, still not as big as the gemstone on yesterday's crown. Mamoru naturally knew about the crown Teiji mentioned. Not only was the main stone a sky-high pink diamond, but the entire gradient pink design was truly breathtaking. That crown is too heavy for baby to wear right now. It would crush his neck. Hearing his eldest grandson's words, Teiji only then looked at my necklace little dumpling form and reluctantly fell silent. She had simply been thinking of giving me the best and forgot that I was only 1 year old and couldn't support wearing it at all. Whatever, later on I'll have someone redesign the lightest, most portable one for baby. She liked sparkling things, and the rare pink diamonds she had were in abundance. To her, they were nothing more than stones, so making a crown for me could also be considered putting them to good use. Little new friend, let's go. We should head downstairs. To show its importance, the Juaju banquet was specially held at the Umezu family's old residence, and the guests had been meticulously handpicked. They did not want our main stage to turn into a vanity fair for people with ulterior motives. The banquet hall was decorated unusually warmly. The solemn quadrangle courtyard was adorned by fresh flowers into a pink ocean, vastly differing from the Umezu family style in everyone's impression, which showed just how cherished the two little protagonists were. The guests present were no fools. After witnessing the Umezu family's attitude with their own eyes, none failed to congratulate themselves on taking it seriously enough. Gifts might not be remembered, but people who didn't take it seriously would definitely have a grudge held against them. We two little stars were naturally the focus of universal attention. Chukiko Umezu crouched down to the side, secretly resolving that sooner or later she would snatch me away. Having too many people around is really annoying. Can't she let just one person hold the little milk dumpling? I really hate those people with no sense of personal boundaries. Reiko Umezu knew best what this younger sister of hers was thinking. Just by looking at that belly full of scheming thoughts, she knew what was on her mind, so she frowned and gave a low warning. Watch yourself. Today is Hoshiki's Shuajo ceremony after all. She absolutely refused to allow any mishaps to happen during her younger brother's Shuajo ceremony. That youth, who bore a striking resemblance to Reiko Umezu, turned his head and stared expressionlessly at the older sister, who was only a few months older than him. Big sister, Hoshiki is my younger brother too. Wondering what else she was scheming, she walked past Reiko Umezu, her voice drifting lightly into her ear. Your worry is entirely redundant. Reiko Umezu just raised a brow as she looked at her retreating back. Is that so? I hope so. The 16-year-old youth stood at 1.86 meters tall, wearing a stiff black suit paired with a stern expression that made him look far more mature than his peers. No one dared to underestimate her in the slightest. Mamoru followed behind Teiji with a gloating smirk. HMPH, serves you right for trying to grab the baby with me. Now, see if anyone can snatch him away from second uncle. Indeed, could anyone possibly snatch someone away from his hands? Watching old master Toshio Umezu unceremoniously hijack me from second uncle's arms, Mamoru felt a pang of heartache. Grandfather's little birthday star looked so festive today. Dressed in traditional Tang attire, the old master looked radiant. This outfit made them look like a pair of golden boys and jade maidens, and anyone who looked would have their heart melt. Yet anyone who had ever worked with old master Toshio Umezu could tell that she was genuinely happy from the bottom of her heart today. That old madam had arrived as well. Sakiwano Umezu casually sidled up to old master Toshio Umezu at some point, staring longingly at the little nephew in her arms. Such an obedient little dumpling, Who wouldn't want to hold him? It's a pity she couldn't outcompel the old master. He came. So, you expect me, this old codger, to go out and welcome that old fellow personally? Old Master Toshio Umezu cast a sideways glare at her eldest son. Don't think I don't know your little schemes. Ignoring her eldest son's silence, Old Master Toshio Umezu directly scooped me up and headed downstairs, with the whole family trailing closely behind in a grand procession. The previously bustling hall instantly fell silent. All gazes snapped unanimously toward the approaching Umezu family. Right in the center, an elderly man leaning on a bamboo cane muttered under his breath, "How on earth does this old Umezu family give birth? They're all human. So why are their descendants entirely different in style from everyone else's?" This family of stunning men and women walking over delivered a visual impact that was extraordinary. Just looking at them was a feast for the eyes. Then, thinking of the crooked melons and cracked dates in his own household, it really made one wish they were dead by comparison. Who's to say otherwise? Old Master's remark echoed the sentiments of two others. Although the Umezu family juniors had plenty of flaws, their faces were truly beyond reproach. When he looked at his own internal grade granddaughter, Sakiwano, it was better left unsaid. In the crowd, a little girl who had been crying moments before stared with wide, glowing eyes at me in the old master's arms and instantly stopped making a fuss. "Little baby, Mommy, I want that little baby!" The little girl pointed at me, jumping up and down like a little monkey trying to snatch something. That aristocratic matron looked utterly embarrassed as she grabbed her child. "Old Master, I'm so sorry." She lowered her voice. "Shut your mouth or else I'll discipline you right on the spot." Her tone was gentle, but her gaze carried murderous intent. This pure daughter was someone she really didn't want to admit she gave birth to. It was simply too humiliating. Did she think the Umezu family members were things anyone could just ask for? Did she really think they were toys on the roadside? Yet she actually dared to want him. She lowered her head to look at her unyielding 3-year-old daughter in deep contemplation. Could it be that her daughter liked the younger brother? It wasn't entirely impossible. Held in the old master's arms, I heard the commotion and rolled my round, grape-like big eyes, quickly locking onto a sparkly little older sister, staring right at me. Seeing the light flashing on and off atop her head, my eyes instantly curved into crescent moons. "Big sister, you have something just like Daddy and the big brothers on your head. How magical." My little head was filled with huge question marks. Why didn't Hoshiki have one? The moment my voice fell, a barrage of sharp gazes shot from the crowd directly toward that little girl. Glaring coldly, Reiko Umezu carefully scrutinized this little girl who had caught her younger brother's attention. The Kurumada family's brat. Does a little idiot like this even deserve to be called elder sister by her younger brother? He maintained a neutral look, his gaze meeting second uncle's cold-edged eyes. He knew all too well what that look meant. Although he was also displeased, he still issued a warning. "Don't forget what day today is." Tsukiko Umezu received the warning and only offered a faint smile. Her gaze fell back onto the adorable younger brother in the old master's arms, and the chill in her eyes only then receded slightly. As for my father Mamoru, his expression remained perpetually detached, yet the twitching corner of his lips still exposed the displeasure hidden deep in his heart. "What elder sister? That drooling little girl doesn't even deserve it. Baby, don't go calling people that randomly." Mamoru began to feel deeply worried about his own son's intelligence. He certainly didn't want his precious son, whom he had raised with such difficulty, to throw his life away for a woman in the future. He had to have the girls keep a close eye on him. I had no idea whatsoever. Daddy had already begun to worry and fret over my future lifelong. A child's attention comes and goes quickly, and I was soon attracted by the items laid out on the table. The two of us, fond of novelty, were placed right in the middle, surrounded by all sorts of objects. Grasping this sense of ritual was still necessary, although the Umezu family didn't believe in these things. Their Umezu family's little prince was born to stand at the very peak of the pyramid. The only hardship in my future life would probably be the bitterness of coffee. Still, it was just a formality after all. Whatever the two little children grabbed would be fine. Sitting on the expensive carpet, my little head turned this way and that, but I still hadn't made a move. A crowd of people looked on with envy at this exquisitely cute set of fraternal twins, feeling both anxious and resentful toward Mamoru. Back then, who didn't think Mamoru was crazy and unhinged? Yet this madman, without even getting married, had managed to have two exceptionally talented daughters, and now at 30, he had added a pair of fraternal twins. This luck was simply unreasonably good. Mamoru couldn't care less what others thought. He protectively guarded his son. "Baby, don't be afraid, Daddy is right here. Grab whatever you like." Meanwhile, little Yuyu Umezu kept a tight grip on my hand and wouldn't let go. Looking at Daddy in front of me, as if I understood his words, I raised both arms, my eyes shining brightly as I stared at him. "Daddy, hold me! Baby likes Daddy the most!" Though I didn't say a word, that gesture was crystal clear to Mamoru. His heart melted completely, and the smile on his face became impossible to hide. Everyone watched in sheer astonishment. This great demon king actually had a day like this. "Daddy, hold me! Baby wants a hug!" I tilted my little head with a pouting lip, not understanding why Daddy still wasn't holding me. I just watched Mamoru with a smile of supreme gentleness, completely devoid of his usual cold-blooded ruthlessness. He patted my little head. "Baby, don't cry. Go pick a few favorite little toys, all right?" I looked at Daddy, then looked at the toys on the table, and finally turned my head to look at the older sister beside me, who was still quietly holding my hand. Upon hearing her younger brother's words, the normally quiet Yuyu Umezu reacted as if she had received a command, quickly crawling toward the target, sweeping those sparkly things into her arms in one fell swoop, and crawling right back to push them all in front of me. For younger brother, whatever younger brother likes belongs entirely to younger brother. Although Yuyu Umezu was small, her style of action fully displayed the arrogant overbearingness of the Umezu family. She never allowed her younger brother to leave her field of vision, yet she was unconditionally generous to her younger brother. As long as her younger brother stayed within her sight, she could entertain herself, and whatever her younger brother liked had to belong to him. Yet such a fiercely possessive little thing refused to interact with anyone other than her younger brother, revealing an early glimpse of her future cold indifference at a tender age. The Umezu family members weren't the least bit surprised by this. On the contrary, having a soft and cute little milk dumpling like me born into their Umezu family was what truly brought liveliness. Tesk, protecting your younger brother so fiercely at such a young age. Old master, congratulations! Your family has produced another pair of fraternal twins. Old master Toshio Umezu looked at the fair and tender little things on the carpet with immense fondness, thinking to herself, "Why is this old codger's luck so good? Could it be that my own ancestral grave's feng shui is bad?" Today, old master Toshio Umezu's mouth simply wouldn't drop from a smile. She proudly shot a sideways glance at the fiery-tempered Teiji. "Xiaoting's children aren't bad at all." Old master Toshio Umezu looked at this old codger with surprise. They shared a bond forged through life and death, having lived through countless trials together. But she had never seen old master Toshio Umezu look like this. The battle-hardened Teiji now looked just like an ordinary elder, full of self-strength. She looked at the little fellow who had changed all of this with a complex yet gratified expression. Emotionally stable, I accepted the things given by my sister. Smiling like a little sweet fruit, the gentlemen present felt their hearts nearly melt. Who wouldn't want such a soft, cute little darling who grew entirely on one's aesthetic sweet spots? As the sole female master of the Umezu family, Hatsu ran back and forth in a flurry at the banquet, but the moment she caught sight of the little nephew, she felt all her hard work was worth it. She just knew her family's little dumpling could capture everyone's heart. But, unfortunately, that second son of theirs guarded him way too tightly, giving her zero opportunity to sneak the little nephew away to raise him. The group of big girls from both families didn't know the first thing about raising kids. They should have let her carry him back and dress him up like a little prince in a fairy tale. Once the Juozo ceremony ended, a gun was picked up, and I was scooped into the air. Not daring to fight the biological father for him, Reiko Umezu could only put on a cold little face and pick up the other twin. A giant light blue castle was carefully wheeled in. The cake stood a full 2 meters tall, with blue and pink dolphins rotating in the middle. For the first time in over a decade, sweet things like cake appeared on the Umezu family dining table. The last time had been for Mamoru's 5th birthday. Lifted up by Daddy, my eyes instantly locked onto those 2 large dolphins rotating with the music, and I squirmed around incessantly in his arms. "Daddy, big fish! Hoshiki wants the big fish!" My little hand slapped against Daddy's shoulders with a loud thwack, sounding crisp enough to prove my strength wasn't small. Mamoru didn't even frown. This tiny bit of strength from his son felt like an itchy scratch to him. He looked at the custom-made cake castle and patiently explained, "Baby, this is sweet cake for eating. You can't play with it." Old Master Toshio Umezu also chuckled as she stroked my little head, her mind already plotting to have someone custom make several dolphins in different colors for her grandson later on. Blocked by her mother, little Yu saw her younger brother liked dolphins and immediately and cleverly stretched out her hand. "Younger brother, do you like little dolphins? I have a lot of them at home. I can give them to you." Before she finished speaking, she was quick-wittedly and deftly covered over the mouth by her biological mother's hand. Enduring the freezing glares of the Umezu family members, the elegant, aristocratic matron wanted for the first time to shove this brat back for a full remodeling. She really was her family's ancestral scourge. "The child is young and doesn't know better, talking nonsense. When I get back, I will definitely discipline her well." Those few pairs of book-binding cold gazes only then withdrew from that brash little girl. Hatsu stepped forward with a smile to comfort the embarrassed Madame Shizuko Kurumada. "It's nothing. They're all just kids. Yu is simply fond of Hoshiki." Although she also felt discipline was in order, as the host, such words weren't easy to say out loud. "However, your little child really seems to fond of my younger brother. Have you considered?" Hearing Hatsu bring this up, Madame Shizuko Kurumada's smile remained as polite as ever, though. No unusual emotion could be discerned on her face. "Just this one is already enough to run me ragged." Only, she knew in her heart how much she wished for more. Yet such things weren't hers to have just because she wanted them. She and her husband, Seiji Kurumada, were merely in a family-arranged marriage, and Seiji still had a beloved woman on the outside. Right now, he was probably keeping that woman company. Just before leaving, a single phone call had made her panic so much that she couldn't even care about the Umezu family banquet. Seiji. Didn't he know the consequences of offending the Umezu family? Of course he knew, but he was simply bewitched by that woman. Thinking of this, Madame Kurumada's heart was filled with bitterness. Those petty scandals of the Kurumada family were long no secret in their circle. As a fellow woman, Hatsu deeply sympathized with her, but as an outsider, it wasn't appropriate to poke at raw wounds. She and Mamoru were similarly in an arranged marriage, but she was lucky. Although her husband's temperament was cold, he never messed around outside. People, after all, couldn't expect everything to go smoothly and as desired. Treading toward the adorable younger brother before her, Raiko Umezu could no longer maintain her aloof persona. A pair of eyes fixed intently on the little dumpling, the corners of her mouth curling up involuntarily. "Does baby like the little dolphins?" Seeing it was the big sister she liked, I immediately puffed out my cheeks and nodded vigorously. "Little dolphins are so cute. Hoshiki likes them best." I looked up at the big sister with a gaze full of anticipation. Mamoru remained indifferent and said nothing. All right. Then the eldest sister would gift baby a little dolphin. Raiko pulled a large box out from behind her and opened it. Inside were actually 2 colorful gemstone dolphin wind chimes. The moment she picked them up, the wind chimes emitted a crisp, pleasing sound. "Wow, so many little dolphins! Daddy, the little dolphins are singing!" Impatiently reaching out her little hand to grab one of the wind chimes, but the gemstone was too large, so she could only catch the tail of a small dolphin. "Daddy? Quickly let go, I want big sister to hold me!" Watching this fickle and ungrateful little one, Teiji didn't have the heart to scold her son and could only shoot a cold glare at Manabu, who was trying to snatch the son away. Reluctantly, Manabu handed the little fellow over and, Finally getting her wish to hold Hoshiki, Tsukiko Umezu couldn't care less whether her second uncle was happy or not. The little fellow in her arms was soft, small, and still carried a milky fragrance. 2. The side? Sakiwano Umezu's face was filled with longing and annoyance. The eldest was too cunning. How? Could she not have thought of tailoring things to his preferences? She had been beaten to the punch in holding the younger brother yet again. The richest man in Longguo suddenly and grandly announced a major piece of news at his son's Juajo ceremony. He would transfer 10% of the YM Group shares into his younger son's name. The moment those words fell, the entire venue plunged into dead silence. That was a market value totaling tens of billions in YM Group shares. Yet it was being given directly to a milk dumpling who had just turned 1 year old. In the venue, the guests collectively had their brains short-circuit and began to wobble. Some people trembled as they calculated this sum of money, only to grow more and more despairing with every calculation. This astronomical wealth was a destination that they couldn't reach even if they were reincarnated. Yet what made people's scalps tingle even more was yet to come. Facing this tens of billions dollar asset, every single member of the Umezu family was excessively calm. Even Teiji's 2 biological daughters showed no ripples of emotion, as if this 15% stake capable of laying golden eggs was nothing more than an inconspicuous piece of paper in their eyes. Just when everyone thought the Umezu family truly looked upon money as dirt, they had no idea that this was merely an appetizer. This gift was merely what appeared on the surface. What Teiji truly wanted to give his son was a one-of-a-kind castle. The address he had already scouted out long ago. It was an entire small island in Bohai Bay. The entire island would be little Hoshiki's private amusement park, and it would even house the dolphins he loved most. Yet, at this moment, our little protagonist was still completely oblivious to all of this, falling fast asleep the moment the Zuajo banquet ended. Consequently, the entire internet blew up for him the very next day. The trending topic of a 3-year-old billionaire young master instantly detonated the hot searches. No number of netizens could stop calculating that astronomical sum of wealth while having their hearts shattered and illusions completely broken. Is the entire internet just me whose heart is shattered? How can I reincarnate into a child of the Umezu family? Step 1. Die once and see how my luck goes. Don't forget, those are shares. They generate money from money. I am truly green with envy. I can't imagine how much a little prince breaks down every single day when waking up to countless zeros. How is it just ordinary people whose hearts broke? Even those top-tier socialites were green with envy. They never dreamed that one day they would actually envy a baby who was still drinking milk. This boundless wealth was something they couldn't match even if they added everything together. In the blink of an eye, the one envied by the entire internet, and her. Daddy's 3-year-old birthday gift turned out to be that private island amusement park built over 2 years. Hearing the news, Hoshiki couldn't wait to drag the whole family along to inspect his kingdom. On the luxurious private jet, the little milk dumpling, like a pink little fragrant piglet, clung into Manabu's arms, wriggling back and forth. This drove the 2 older sisters, Raiko Umezu and Tsukiko Umezu, to absolute envy. Just like the twin cool sisters, Yuyu Umiezu, who had been born only half an hour earlier than him, they could only silently envy him. Carefully and cautiously, watching the younger brother about to be completely monopolized by the older brother the whole way, second older sister Tsukiko Umezu could no longer hold back. She completely broke down, gritting her teeth. Manabu, that's enough. This is my younger brother. Tsukiko Umezu's fury was almost ready to erupt. Don't! You have your own younger brother. Why do you keep trying to snatch mine? Who knew that Tsukiko Umezu would just haughtily glance sideways, intentionally holding and patting the chubby little hands of the milk dumpling in her arms. Oh, but Hoshiki is my younger brother. Right, baby? Hoshiki gave ultimate face by leaning in and planting a loud smack right on him. Seeing this, both biological sisters, Tsukiko Umezu and Manabu, gritted their teeth. Baby is my younger brother! The next second, Tsukiko Umezu's expression shifted instantly, turning her voice gentle as she reached her hands out toward her younger brother. "Baby, come to sister's side, all right?" He hadn't been able to hold his younger brother for a whole hour. However, Manabu ruthlessly swatted away his eager hands without hesitation, saying, "Scram, stinky woman. How could you know how to hold a fragrant, soft little dumpling?" Yet, at that moment, Hoshiki, who was being crazily fought over, remained completely oblivious. He was curiously staring at the flashing red characters atop his sister's head, extending his little hand to grab those characters, only for them to instantly vanish. Hoshiki thought this game was the most fun thing ever, while Mamoru just smiled, and the whole family assumed it was merely a child's playful antics, completely unaware that in the Umezu family, turning 3 years old was already considered late. After all, his genius twin and triplet older sisters were already studying advanced calculus. Just as Hoshiki was having the time of his life playing, she suddenly shifted her posture and turned her head to look, and unexpectedly discovered that those entertaining little red characters had now appeared on her sister's head as well. "Sister wants a little mirror?" Hoshiki asked in a baby-soft voice, patting and spreading her small hands. She had to figure out why. Her sister had red characters on her head while she didn't. The next second, the traditionally steady eldest sister, Raiko Umezu, actually pulled out a pink and white satin pair of sunglasses from her little sun backpack. Yet, who would have thought that the moment Hoshiki finished looking in the mirror, her little face instantly fell. Pouting her little lips, she pointed a tiny finger at her sister. "Why, does Hoshiki have it? And baby doesn't." The whole family was stunned. Only the older sister grew so anxious her eyes turned red. She tightly clenched her small fists, coaxing her in a baby-soft voice. Just as everyone's hearts leaped into their throats, Hoshiki suddenly burst into laughter. "Hee, you all got tricked by me. This?" Little Demon had several older brothers and sisters immediately put on doting expressions, cooperating by saying she was a little bad egg. However, only Manabu retorted with a completely serious expression. "Brother is not bad. Hoshiki is bad." Immediately following this, the little milk dumpling raised her mirror again and began her daily narcissistic talk. "Magic mirror, oh magic mirror, who is the cutest baby in this entire world?" The entire family sighed, in unison with doting expressions. A man with a powerful aura suddenly appeared. The chill on his body vanished the instant he laid eyes on his son, his voice turning so gentle it could squeeze out water. "Baby? Daddy is holding you. We're about to arrive." In front of his son, Tiji was a gentle, doting old father, but the older brothers and sisters knew the truth deep down. This ruthless, decisive madman of a second uncle in the business world would only retract all his fangs in front of his younger brother. The little milk dumpling didn't care about any of this, happily extending her tiny hands. "Daddy, hold me." Seeing the younger brother get scooped away, the normally aloof Manabu felt a slight pang of sourness in her heart. For this reason, she even thought of her nominal fiancé. However, only Manabu retorted with a completely serious expression. "Brother is not bad. Hoshiki is bad." Following that, the little milk dumpling raised her mirror once more, starting her daily narcissistic talk. "Magic mirror, oh magic mirror, who is the cutest baby in this entire world?" The entire family sighed in unison with doting expressions. A man with a powerful aura suddenly appeared. The chill on his body vanished the instant he laid eyes on his son, his voice turning so gentle it could squeeze out water. "Daddy, hold me. We're about to arrive." In front of his son, Teiji was a gentle, doting old father, while the older brothers and sisters knew the truth deep down. This ruthless, decisive madman of a second uncle in the business world would only retract all his fangs in front of his younger brother. The little milk dumpling didn't care about any of this, happily extending her tiny hands. "Daddy, hold me." Seeing the younger brother get scooped away, the normally aloof Manabu felt a slight pang of sourness in her heart. Because of this, she even thought of her nominal fiancé. This engagement was merely forced upon them by the Ouyang family, relying on a life-saving debt owed to their ancestors. Manabu's not only didn't care in the least, but she practically wished the other party would screw up soon so she could smoothly call off the engagement. Just as Manabu's mind was racing with thoughts, the plane slammed down to a landing. The next second, Hoshiki's gasp of surprise left everyone dumbfounded. "Wow, Daddy! It's my favorite giant pink castle!" Everyone looked out in the direction pointed, instantly drawing in a sharp breath of cold air. Right above a natural lake, a series of pink and white gradient fantasy castles had miraculously risen out of nowhere, all surrounded by water with flower paths paving the way. The only long bridge led straight to the deep interior of the castle. Where on earth was this a mere castle? This was clearly a one and only fairy tale kingdom personally crafted by Teiji for his little prince. Even an item of pink wasn't loved by Manabu, yet she was thoroughly captivated by this ultimate dreamscape, experiencing for the first time an impulse to move right in. But eldest sister Raiko Umezu looked calm on the outside, but her mind was already furiously brainstorming. Since it was just a castle, for the younger brother's next birthday, she would gift him a real star. She absolutely had to win back her face. Another sister, Tsukiko Umezu, pulled out her phone and snapped a few photos, sending them straight into the family group chat with the caption, "Second uncle completely wins this round." At the same time, the eldest sister of the Umezu family, Saki Wano, saw the photos and merely offered a meaningful smile. She knew that her madman of a second uncle had finally met his ultimate counter. People only saw the richest man's doting, daily routine, but as a niece who was 11 years younger than the second uncle, Saki Wano had personally witnessed his most terrifying side. Imprisonment, reclaiming territory from the sea, and toying with human hearts were just everyday occurrences to him. Saki Wano still remembered to this day how second uncle had once imprisoned the current Mr. Gu, forcing that couple through several brushes with life and death, where they practically walked through every half step of penal law. If she hadn't eventually grown bored of playing with them, those two people wouldn't have survived until today. Who could have imagined that the terrifying madman Yan Wang of Jing City back then would now be wrapped around the finger of a little milk dumpling, engaging in cozy skinship? At this moment, the little milk dumpling standing before the castle was completely oblivious to her daddy's bloody past. She tilted her small head, asking in a baby-soft voice, "Daddy, is this castle for baby and Hoshiki?" Teiji smiled dotingly and gave a grand wave of his hand. "The entire island belongs to baby." However, she deliberately omitted the name Hoshiki. The moment those words fell, Manabu, who had been treated like air, instantly turned to stone. "Baby, do you even hear yourself right now?" At this moment, the heavy gates of the castle slowly opened. Butler Anju had already brought all the servants to stand in respectful formation and wait. The servants stood neatly in rows, devoid of any awkward tropes from novels where everyone shouted simultaneous welcomes. However, in Hoshiki's eyes, there was only one person. The moment she spotted Sister Anju, she happily kicked her little legs in her daddy's arms. "Sister Anju, why are you here?" Even the usually strict and rigid Anju felt her face bloom with smiles the moment she laid eyes on her little master. She had not seen young Master Hoshiki for 3 whole days. Teiji deliberately slowed his pace, letting the little dumpling in his arms chatter away while patiently guiding her to tour every corner of her castle. But, watching this scene, Tsukiko Umezu wore a dark expression and clicked her tongue. Younger brother born before Teiji and now are practically 2 different people ever. Since she could remember, she knew that in the Umezu family, familial affection was the most luxurious thing of all. Outsiders were right. They really were a bunch of madmen. Yet, among this bunch of madmen, a milky little dumpling had now appeared. If not for Hoshiki's eyes being identical to those of the Umezu family, Tsukiko Umezu would have really suspected that old man Teiji had gone out of his way to wear a green hat just to get a birth certificate. Of course, this was just her wild imagination. After all, the bloodline of the Umezu family could never have errors. From the moment a pregnancy was detected, mother would be protected by a top-tier medical team the entire way, and even the delivery doctors were thoroughly investigated. Infant's blood was checked immediately after birth, so mix-ups were completely impossible. Just at this moment, the phone of the other sister, Reiko Umezu, suddenly rang. Her childhood friend sent a message accompanied by a string of angry emojis. Someone isn't saying they have business. This is what you call business, you old fox. In the video, the pink and white castle stunned even an aesthetic lover like her friend. Can anything of yours even compare to this luxury? She even harbored ulterior motives, thinking, I really want to snatch this milky little dough drop and raise it myself. Reiko Umezu didn't reply. She merely inspected the castle, trying to pick out any flaws. This place wasn't oppressive like the Umezu family old residence, but rather filled with childlike, Western-style luxury. The next second, Hoshiki's chattering little mouth flew wide open, leaving the little fellow dazzled as her tiny head spun like a mosquito coil. The next second, her chubby little hands clutched her dizzy head and she buried her face straight into Daddy's chest, acting coquettishly, Daddy? Baby's head is spinning. Teiji heart-rendingly massaged her son's thick short hair, just wanting to let her rest for a moment, but the little dumpling shook her tiny head and stubbornly refused. No! Watching the flesh on her cheeks shake back and forth, Teiji, fearing she might snap her neck, quickly steadied her. Right? At this moment, Yu Umezu cleverly snatched the milk bottle from the eldest sister's hands, lifting it high in front of her younger brother. Younger brother. Here! The one whose credit was stolen, Reiko Umezu, looked coldly at this sister. Very good. You're asking for a beating again. Yet Yu Umezu didn't ignore her. Why shouldn't she feel justified about something she snatched with her own skill? Smelling the fragrance, Hoshiki's eyes instantly lit up, hugging the milk bottle and flashing 8 teeth at the depressed eldest sister. Thank you, sister, Reiko. Umezu was instantly healed, and she even smugly shot a sideways glance at her sister. See, baby's closest person is still me. Drink up quickly, and then the sisters will take baby to explore. Upon hearing exploration, Hoshiki instantly grew excited. Yay, let's go explore! Originally, the little dumpling's favorite activity was playing exploration games. Practically the entire Umezu family old residence had been explored by her. For this reason, Teiji not only equipped all her accessories with trackers, but also installed the YM Group's newly developed surveillance systems in every corner of Mingyu Garden, terrified that she might run into any accidents. After all, the entire mountain was private property, and you couldn't even find this place on maps. Following that, Hoshiki proudly clinked her milk bottle with Teiji's glass, shouting, "Cheers!" and then started gulping it down. Frightened, adults watched the two little cute toddlers. Teiji gently wiped away the milk from his son's mouth, while Manabu went completely crazy taking photos. With hundreds of videos and tens of thousands of photos on her phone, they were all of these two little cuties. Right after finishing their meal, Hoshiki's Prince Conquest journey officially began. Although this castle wasn't pink, every single detail precisely struck Hoshiki's preferences, feeling both dreamy and childlike. But while this was clearly a birthday gift for two children, the only one receiving sole devotion and favor was the little Prince Hoshiki. As a result, by the end of the day, Hoshiki had only explored half of it before running completely out of energy. Falling fast asleep upon touching the bed like a little piglet, her belly rising and falling in rhythmic waves. Teiji, he couldn't help but poke her little belly, let out a soft chuckle, and dotingly pulled up the blanket to cover her navel. However, early the next morning, the little dumpling sleeping in the Iron Man-themed room instantly came back to life. She, topped with a tuft of messy hair, pressed her entire body onto her old father and reached out with her fleshy hands to poke at Teiji's eyelids. Daddy, Daddy, are you a lazy piglet? Before the words were even finished, plop. A kiss, and half of Teiji's face was covered in saliva. Who knew Teiji wouldn't mind in the slightest? He used both hands to shield the little dumpling on his chest, helplessly opened his eyes. Baby, could it be that you woke up too early? The little dumpling laughed heartily, and in the next second, her little milk voice, covered in squiggly lines, excitedly announced, Daddy, change clothes. I am a prince today, and there's such a huge territory waiting for the prince to conquer. Teiji leaned lazily against the headboard, looking at his son's adorable, pampered little appearance, and raised an eyebrow, his lips always curled in a faint smile. "We have 4 days. You can take your time conquering your territory." "Good Lord, Daddy, what are you waiting for? Hurry and dress the world's cutest prince." The little prince proudly tilted his chin, his round, big eyes blinking incessantly, urging on his long-suffering old father. Taiji could only resign himself to his fate and scooped up this proud little dumpling. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the little dumpling's walk-in closet. 3-year-old Hoshiki actually had his own massive wardrobe and an exclusive design team. The seasonal new arrivals were delivered to the door, with top-tier designers on standby at all times. As long as a style was selected on the tablet, the matching outfit would immediately appear. Taiji casually tapped on a light blue prince costume with a little cape. Who knew Hoshiki would shake his head? "Daddy is silly. Today Hoshiki is a prince." But in the next second, his little fleshy hand pointed to another set, the Great Demon King set. "Daddy, I don't want to be a prince anymore. I want to be the king." Once those words were out, Taiji instantly abandoned all thoughts of the prince costumes. What little prince? His Taiji's precious son was, of course, a king beyond compare. That was a dragon-themed king set, a velvet jacket, dark patterned trousers, and a domineering cape embroidered with a golden dragon on the back. Not only that, the entire crown was encrusted with black diamonds with a massive ruby in the center, and the mini crown was even a cool dragon horn shape. Putting on the king set, Hoshiki instantly transformed into a noble and handsome little king. Taiji was extremely satisfied. He immediately ordered the housekeeper, "This outfit is not bad. Give the designer a bonus on their year-end reward." Yet behind this was Taiji's hidden agenda. He wanted to use this sweetness as bait to make the entire design team compete frantically, just to design better works for his son. At this moment, the ultimate brother complex Minabu saw his younger brother and blurted out, "Wow, younger brother is cute." Who knew Hoshiki would straighten his face, puff out his chubby cheeks, and tilt his chin, proudly declaring, "Remember, I am the king now." As the words fell, Reiko shoved Minabu aside and quite naturally took over his younger brother's line of sight. She leaned over slightly and elegantly placed her hand in front of the little king. "So, noble king, would you allow me to take you to inspect your territory?" Hoshiki solemnly placed his little hand in Reiko's and happily beckoned to Taiji. "Of course you can, sister! Magic fairy sister! Magic fairy sister!" This strange and bizarre title made Tsukiko, who was to the side, almost laugh out loud. Who knew the little dumpling would suddenly urge them? "Daddy, hurry! Baby has been waiting until the flowers have withered." At this, Taiji's brow instantly furrowed. "Baby, where did you learn these chaotic words?" As the words fell, Manabu, who was standing nearby, instantly felt guilty. He had just been bored and played a few games. Who knew the little dumpling would remember them? Sure enough, Hoshiki tilted his little head and said innocently, "Daddy, was it wrong? But that's what was said on brother's phone." Taiji immediately squatted down and looked at his son seriously. "Baby, you can say, 'Can't wait,' but you can't learn everything, you know?" "Okay." Hoshiki nodded obediently. Yet the next second, she shouted, "Hey, Daddy, baby is all ready, can't wait, go, go, go!" However, when Taiji passed by the guilty Manabu, the eyes beneath his gaze instantly brimmed with a profound meaning. The next second, when a playground costing tens of billions appeared before their eyes, everyone was shocked. The entire small island, with a total area of 50 square kilometers, was mostly built into an amusement park. And all of this was merely a birthday gift Taiji gave his son. Compared to the Ferris wheel that towered into the clouds, the two little dumplings, not even as high as their knees, were like two little ants. Hoshiki, with her excited little face flushed red, raised her fist and shouted, "Daddy, I want to go there!" Taiji gently picked up the little dumpling and placed her familiarly onto the seat. When the Ferris wheel slowly rose to the highest point, the two little dumplings pressed against the glass, letting out one wow after another in their baby voices non-stop. Even the normally cool Manabu couldn't help but gasp in amazement. But Taeji's gaze always remained fixed only on the excited little son in his arms. Next, the Hoshiki, who stepped out of the Ferris wheel, threw herself into Tsukiko's arms and proposed a new request. "Sister, brother, baby wants to go see Kong Kong." The group of people's faces instantly went blank. What on earth was this? Just at this moment, Teiji transformed into his son's exclusive translator and said lightly, "The golden snub-nosed monkeys over there. Take baby to see them." However, as the chairman of the group, Teiji had to be in many places at once. He irritably glanced at his eldest daughter. Old thoughts flashed through his mind. He pondered. The eldest and second eldest both seemed capable of taking over the business, but his gaze ultimately fell on the excited little dumpling in Raiko's arms. His precious son was born to be pampered. A bold idea emerged. Why not just cultivate the eldest and second eldest to work for his precious son? Just at this moment, Tsukiko pushed Raiko away and snatched the little dumpling into her arms. "Baby, second sister will carry you." Raiko instantly glared at her impatiently. These sisters indeed. In the end, Manabu, who didn't get to hold his younger brother, could only hold Yuyu. The group rode the sightseeing car straight to the zoo. Hoshiki had no interest in the other animals, only thinking of the golden snub-nosed monkey that looked just like Kong Kong. Once they arrived, the little dumpling kicked her short legs and rushed to the viewing spot. "Hi, Kong Kong, how are you? I am the Magic Fairy Fox King." She waved her little hand, enthusiastically greeting the golden snub-nosed monkey in the tree. Yu remained quietly by her younger brother's side. Although she thought the monkeys were cute, her younger brother was still the cutest. But who knew the golden snub-nosed monkey in the tree would be completely indifferent? The little dumpling instantly looked aggrieved. "Kong, Kong, why are you ignoring me?" She turned to look at her all-powerful older brother and sisters. Inouye. Her world, family, was the most amazing. Since that was the case, why wouldn't the super amazing Kong Kong talk to the most amazing Magic Fairy Fox King? This question instantly threw the two sisters and one brother, who were usually world beaters, into a panic. The usually arrogant and domineering eldest young master Manabu was now at a complete loss. Not knowing how to explain that Sun Wukong was just a myth, he squatted down and stuttered, "Is it possible?" In the end, he simply gave up and threw the difficult problem to the sisters on the side. "It's up to you all." Manabu truly couldn't bear to deceive his younger brother, so he cleanly tossed the problem to his two younger sisters. The bad guy, let them be it. The little dumpling touched her own little head, filled with question marks. She turned to look at the two sisters. "Sister? Brother? Why can't you tell Hoshiki?" The usually cold-hearted and ruthless Tsukiko, facing her younger brother's curious eyes, was rarely conflicted. He really couldn't tell a lie, but he also didn't want to break his younger brother's childhood innocence. He could only bite the bullet and explain. "Baby, Sun Wukong is a made-up story. Real little monkeys can't talk." Raiko also squatted down to agree. "Your second sister is right, so the little monkey can't greet you." The little dumpling understood half of it. Her little head couldn't turn the corner, but she was broad-minded. If she couldn't understand it, she'd put it aside for now. At this moment, the butler Anju saved the situation in time. "Little master, we can feed them what they like to eat." Once he heard he could feed them, the little dumpling instantly threw all his confusion to the back of his mind. "Anju, brother, I want to feed Kong Kong!" Next, he picked up a strawberry bigger than his hand and held it out toward the golden snub-nosed monkey. "Kong, Kong, Magic Fairy King invites you to eat a strawberry." "Oh!" The golden snub-nosed monkey really approached slowly, looking docile and cute, but in the next second, the brother and sisters' faces turned dark, and they suddenly yanked his little hand back. "Baby, you can't reach your hand in. It's dangerous." The sister's tone was incredibly serious. Who knew the little dumpling would pout her lips and righteously retort, "Sister, Kong Kong wouldn't hurt the Magic Fairy King." Seeing her younger brother's firm gaze, the brother and sisters were simply at their wits' end. They weren't worried about being hurt, but rather the bacteria on the monkeys. But how could Hoshiki understand these things? She only knew that the sisters didn't believe her. Really? Really? I'm really telling the truth. The little fellow stomped her feet in anxiety. Sister, Kong really won't hurt me. But the sisters didn't know that Tong Tong had told her this. Kong was a good monkey, completely different from the bad monkeys on Mount Ime. Hoshiki was so anxious she wanted to spill everything about the system, but when she opened her mouth, not a single word would come out. Bad? Tong, why don't you let me speak? The system in her brain was practically crying. He had kicked out the host early, and as a result, the little one remembered nothing and was directly pampered into an exquisite little useless person. He hurriedly used a cutesy voice to coax Hoshiki. It's not the system, but you said your brain would hurt if you spoke out, so you can't say it. Who knew the 3-year-old milk baby had actually learned to retort? Tong, you're so amazing. Can't you stop Hoshiki from hurting? The system was instantly speechless and had to pull out the rules. This is the rule. The system can't help it. Hoshiki had no choice but to drop it. Just at this moment, his twin sister Manabu seized the opportunity and held her younger brother's little hand. Younger brother, don't be afraid. Sister will protect you. With this, the sisters' expressions instantly changed. Tsukiko even gritted her teeth as she pulled the little girl away, pointing at the tiger nearby and mocking her. With your scrawny build, it's not even enough for him to pick his teeth with. As the words fell, she scooped Hoshiki into her arms and triumphantly shook him. The Chai-sum-sum-piam meaning was self-evident. Stinky girl, even if you grow for another 10 years, don't even think about snatching my younger brother. But Yu only looked at her with disdain. So what if she was older? She and her younger brother were twins born from the same mother, possessing a telepathic connection that no one else had. Just when the sisters were fighting, eldest sister Raiko suddenly reached out and dangled a temptation that Hoshiki couldn't refuse. All right, Hoshiki, eldest sister will take you to see the dolphins over there. How about it? Once he heard there were dolphins, Hoshiki instantly extended her little hands to be held by eldest sister. Raiko calmly took her younger brother from Tsukiko's arms, not even looking at her twisted face, and turned to walk away. Tsukiko was so angry she practically exploded on the spot. Who knew third brother Manabu would also come to twist the knife? Second, didn't expect that, did you? With just your level of strength. While Tsukiko was staring so hard at eldest sister's back that her gaze could kill, the Hoshiki in her arms suddenly turned back and waved at her. Second, sister, hurry and come. With just one sentence, Tsukiko was instantly back to full health and followed along happily. Sure enough, her younger brother still liked her best. The castle tour was super fun for Hoshiki. When they left, she was still reluctant. Daddy, when can we come play again? TG held his pink, tender little prince and gently replied, wait until grandfather finishes his birthday. Hoshiki can come whenever you want. However, this was just said for Hoshiki's ears. Their sudden return this time was actually for grandmother's Memorial Day. A topic too heavy for a 3-year-old. Teiji didn't want his son to accept the concept of death right now. Moreover, the sisters were far from as relaxed as they appeared. 18-year-old eldest sister Raiko had already parachuted into the group to serve as director. Second sister Tsukiko was attending school while also responsible for a brand new private laboratory. Even the cousin from the eldest uncle's family, Sakiwano, was stepping forward in the political arena, where one wrong step meant an abyss. These women, standing in the middle of the pyramid, gave all their tenderness to the only little prince in the family. At this time, Hoshiki was fast asleep in Daddy's arms, completely unaware that a storm was quietly brewing in the Umezu family. Watching the two pink-cheeked little dumplings sleeping like piglets, Teiji carefully covered them with a blanket. This scene was already nothing new to Manabu, because ever since Hoshiki was born, this fierce second uncle had completely devolved into a silly milk dad. But who could have imagined that this man, who was currently preparing surprises for his son, was actually a lawless outlaw before Hoshiki was born? Imprisonment, forced coercion, single-handedly ruining the Jiyu family to the point of collapse. To this day, they wouldn't dare set foot in Jing City, even half a step. Manabu unfortunately knew that Uncle wasn't in love with that Chiwei back then. People of the Umezu family would never show kindness. What's more, wasn't Hoshiki's biological father just another victim? Thinking of this, Manabu's heart tightened. That woman had taken the full billion given by the old master and gone to France to live it up. What if one day the money ran out and she came back to look for Hoshiki? This possibility was not non-existent. After all, even a billion might not withstand her squandering. Just as Manabu was caught in wild thoughts, the plane landed steadily. As the coordinate car stopped at the gate of the old mansion, sharp-eyed Hoshiki saw grandfather's figure from afar and instantly grew excited. Grandfather! Grandfather! Are you here to pick up Hoshiki? And while still in Tiji's arms, her little body had already impatiently stretched out, two little arms waving wildly. The moment old Master Toshio saw his precious grandson, his two legs spun into sparks as he rushed over in a few steps to snatch the person directly from his son's arms. "Oh, dear, my Hoshiki has finally come back. Did you miss Grandpa or not? Grandpa missed you to death." Hoshiki gave Toshio several smacking kisses on the face, yet Toshio didn't mind it at all, his whole face filled with a happy smile. You must know that, let alone getting close, ordinary people would find their legs turning to jelly just standing in front of old Master Toshio. After all, that was an aura forged from a sea of corpses and blood, heavy enough to choke anyone. Yet, this little dumpling Hoshiki hadn't been afraid of him at all since infancy. Not only was she not afraid, but she was exceptionally close to him, loving to crawl all over old Master Toshio. "Hoshiki, did you have fun playing in the castle?" Fun. The little child nodded heavily, then mysteriously announced, "Grandpa, let me tell you, Hoshiki is now the magic fairy queen in the castle." Just like that, the old man and the child chatted away in their own world as they walked inside, leaving behind the ignored Manabu holding the yearning Yuyu along with the two older sisters, all of them wearing identical looks of resignation. Forget it, let's go, we're used to it anyway. As long as Hoshiki was around, old Master Toshio had no room for anyone else in his eyes. As for them, these granddaughters and grandsons, they were simply unimportant. Meanwhile, Tiji couldn't be bothered to pay attention to those younger generations either. He walked beside old Master Toshio, his gaze falling gently upon that chattering little dumpling, who was growing more and more excited. Today happened to be the day for paying respects at the grave. Shortly after, Tiji carried a freshly awakened Hoshiki downstairs. In the downstairs living room, the entire family was dressed in uniform black, the atmosphere solemn and quiet. Yet the next second, an ungrounded voice shattered the stillness. "Look, which little lazy pig is this?" Just by hearing it, you could tell it was third Uncle Shugo, who loved teasing his nephews and nieces. You must know that this man was feared on the outside as the king of entertainment, yet right in front of his little nephew, his composure faltered just a bit. Who knew Hoshiki wouldn't buy this act at all? Before she could even reply in her milky voice, "Shogo! Hoshiki is not a small lazy pig, Shogo is the little milk dumpling." She kicked her little feet carefree in her biological father's arms, and even turned her head to complain to Grandpa. "Grandpa, Shogo is hateful, saying Hoshiki is a pig. Won't you beat him up, okay?" 3-year-old Hoshiki immediately turned around to complain right in front of third uncle. "Grand PA, Shogo is the pig. She is not a pig. She is daddy's baby." Shogo was instantly dumbfounded. "Little Hoshiki, you don't play by the rules." Who knew that before he even finished speaking, with a whack, old Master Toshio delivered a solid slap to the back of his head with full force. "Stinking brat, even Hoshiki you dare to glare at." After glaring at his son, he turned back to his little grandson, his expression transforming instantly into one of utmost gentleness. He scooped Hoshiki directly from Teji's arms and strode outward. "Go! Hoshiki, we won't mind him, let's go give Grandma pretty flowers." Left behind were the eldest and second brothers of the Umezu family, watching with their own eyes as their biological father carried the precious nephew away, completely not daring to compete. After all, old Master Toshio in his youth was the absolute nightmare of their 3 siblings. It was only in front of Hoshiki that he was this easy to talk to. Soon, a dozen black sedans stopped outside the cemetery. The Umezu family members, dressed in black, marched in a grand procession toward a gravesite in the middle. "Hoshiki, come, give the flowers to Grandma." Old Master Toshio stood behind as the little grandson offered the flowers. Hoshiki immediately hugged a large bouquet of Juliet roses and carefully placed them before the headstone. The next second, she spoke in her milky voice toward the photo on the cold headstone. "Pretty." "Grandma, Hoshiki has come again. Pretty." "Grandma, did you miss Hoshiki?" Looking at this little bundle of joy who was completely different in personality from everyone else in the Umezu family, old Master Toshio felt a wave of profound emotion in his heart. This was the very little grandson that the old woman and Hoshiki never got to see. It was only a pity that the old woman lacked the good fortune to enjoy this domestic happiness. Yet, just as old Master Toshio was deep in emotion, a smoke-free war was quietly unfolding behind him. Third brother Shugo looked at the back of his little nephew, and that thieving desire to steal a child began to act up again. He sidled up to Teiji. "Second brother, why don't you let Hoshiki stay at my place for a few days? I guarantee I'll take good care of him." The result was merely an icy glare from second brother Teiji, the meaning of which was crystal clear. "If you dare say one more word, I'll beat you." After all, the last time Shogo had been beaten so badly because of these words that he didn't dare step outside for half a month. Yet, he was not only unafraid, but even dared to continue courting death. "Second brother, you can't be this unreasonable. You've raised him for so many years. It's about time you let me, his biological uncle, raise him for a bit." Just at this moment, the eldest brother Manabu, who had remained silent, finally spoke up. "Third, brat, shut up. You're too noisy." Shogo instantly fell silent. Who knew that the next second, Manabu would turn to Teiji and say words that caused everyone's jaws to drop. "Second brother, let me speak some common sense. How could a grown man like you take care of Hoshiki? It would be better to let me take care of him for a few days. Hoshiki is 3 years old and about to start school. He always needs a meticulous female presence by his side. Never expected that even the normally stern eldest brother would want to snatch the child. The younger generation standing behind could barely hold back their laughter. Following that, everyone's gazes snapped uniformly toward Teiji. The possessiveness exploding father. Would he be broken through by the joint attack of his 2 brothers this time? Poor Hoshiki still had no idea that the adults had already fought to the point of turning the heavens upside down over his custody. Teiji faced 2 covetous brothers, fully activating his soul guardianship mode. "Eldest brother, don't you have a son of your own? Just because you see baby is cute, you want to snatch him." "Unfortunately, I am the only father baby has." "You really want one? You can go make another one right now." Responding to national policies isn't a bad idea either. Once that word left his mouth, 50-something eldest brother Manabu's face turned green. Are these human words? Sister-in-law Saki, holding back her laughter to the point of internal injury, still couldn't help joining the child-snatching army. "Oh, indeed, brother. Hoshiki is so smart and clever, won't you really consider what your eldest brother proposed?" She was even more curious in her heart as to how Teiji, this reticent block of wood, managed to produce such a little doll of a gallery. Did he perhaps take after the child? Yet Teiji merely replied respectfully, "Sister-in-law, I will take good care of Hoshiki." A single sentence directly blocked and sealed away everyone's thoughts. The grave sweeping concluded. Teiji carried Hoshiki, preparing to leave. The little fellow rested on her father's shoulder, waving her milky hand toward the headstone. "Pretty." "Grandma, Hoshiki will come see you again next time and bring you flowers." Just as those words fell, a gorgeous butterfly fluttered over, landing right on her raised, tiny hand. Iki's eyes widened instantly. "Daddy, look! It's a pretty butterfly. It's Grandma!" The entire family, seeing this scene, shifted their expressions slightly. Old Master Toshio was even filled with deep emotion. "Perhaps this really is your mother. If she were here, she would definitely love Hoshiki the most." Hoshiki nodded seriously. "Grandpa is right. Grandma likes Hoshiki. She carefully cradled the butterfly in her hands. Though she liked it, she still chose to set it free. "Little butterfly, goodbye!" Just at the moment the butterfly flew away. No one expected that what happened next would leave everyone dumbfounded on the spot. The little dumpling had kindly let the butterfly go, and the family watched with warm expressions. Yet no one imagined that beneath this veneer of gentle warmth, upon returning to the Umezu old mansion, Hoshiki had already fallen asleep in the car. However, her 3-year-old sister Yu stared fixedly at the younger brother being carried away by her father and stomped her foot fiercely. It was Daddy again. She hadn't spoken to her younger brother for several hours. The little girl fiercely turned around and headed back to her room, secretly swearing that when she grew up, she would definitely snatch her younger brother back. No one could stop her. That very night, she defeated the great Demon King Daddy in her dream and successfully recaptured her younger brother. In Hiei, the dream, her younger brother hugged her and said she was his closest sister, making her giggle with delight. In the blink of an eye, approaching old Master Toshio's birthday banquet, Hoshiki simply moved into the old mansion. This delighted the old master to pieces. What big birthday! Nothing compared to returning to his little grandson. The second day, early in the morning, Hoshiki was fumbling around in the covers looking for Daddy. "Wake up! Where's Daddy?" Who knew that the moment her chubby little hand started making a fuss, her 3-year-old sister Yu suddenly snapped awake. She grabbed her younger brother's hand, mimicking an adult's manner by gently patting and soothing him. "Bye, Daddy went to work, sister will dress baby, okay?" Would you believe that a 3-year-old little girl could be this steady? It turned out that Yu's daily routine was as regular as a robot's. She woke up and exercised at precisely 7 every morning, a habit she had kept up for a full year. During this time, she had only fallen ill once, and that single exception happened because her younger brother wanted to see a snowman. She took advantage of when everyone wasn't paying attention to run outside alone and build 2 small snowmen that looked just like them. Yu had just finished her morning workout when she bumped into her father heading out. She felt wild joy in her heart. The opportunity has come. Following that, she pattered on little feet all the way upstairs and pushed open her younger brother's bedroom door. Who knew that looking at her younger brother's rosy sleeping face, she herself grew drowsy and climbed straight into the covers to sleep. Until Hoshiki woke up with soft grunts, didn't wait for Daddy, but saw her sister right beside her. She wore a dazed look and soft and milkily called out, "Sister." This single sister practically melted Yu's heart. She smugly thought that the eldest and second sisters definitely didn't have this privilege. She immediately took her younger brother's hand to go wash up, though a small trace of disappointment lingered in her heart. After all, the whole family forbade her from holding her younger brother. She could only cast envious glances at those 2 older sisters. Arriving at the miniature sink custom-built 1-to-1 for him, Yu skillfully tied on a toothpaste tube, her expression gloomy and determined. "Younger brother, let's brush our teeth." After brushing his teeth, Yu picked up hair gel. Today she was going to challenge herself to style her younger brother's hair. For this, she had specifically consulted the eldest brother and binged all kinds of tutorials, determined to catch her younger brother's favorite hairstyle. However, while her brain understood, her hands refused to cooperate. Her first attempt ended in a miserable failure. But Yu would never admit defeat. "Younger brother be good. Sister made a mistake. This time I'll definitely give you a faux hawk." Hoshiki was holding a tablet watching cartoons. Hearing this, she blinked, her big eyes filled with adoration. Hoshiki believes sister is the best. In her heart, the sister born right alongside her was omnipotent. In fact, Yu's IQ was indeed super high, and she could pick up anything at a single glance. However, no matter how smart a girl was, she completely crashed and burned when it came to styling her younger brother's hair. However, Yu encountered the first world-class problem of her life. She carefully pinched her younger brother's soft hair, wanting to style it into a faux hawk, only to find that the hair was limp and refused to take shape like in the video. No matter, try again. Just as she was persistently failing and trying anew, Manabu's... Wait, Miranyao's video call came through. Hoshiki's eyes lit up and she tapped it open at lightning speed. "Daddy, good morning!" In the video, Manabu Miranyao, dressed in a black suit, sat in his office, while behind him were shelves piled high with snacks specially made for his son. She had only her precious son in her eyes as she gently asked if baby had missed Daddy. As Maidits? For the little face frowning behind her son, mate. Renyao, Hoshiki immediately pouted and complained, "Missed you, super duper missed you, Daddy." Baby's heart isn't there anymore. Baby is unhappy. Miranyao's heart ached so much she almost rushed back home, hurriedly coaxing, "Baby, don't cry. Daddy will come back as soon as he finishes processing, and I bought you a gift too." Once, hearing there was a gift, Hoshiki immediately cheered up, yet was kept in suspense by Miranyao intentionally selling a secret. Having coaxed her son, Mayam, Renyao finally noticed that restless little thing behind him, her brows furrowed. "Yu, what are you doing to baby's hair?" Before Yu could open her mouth, Hoshiki proactively raised a tablet bigger than her face, saying in her milky voice, "Daddy, I know sister is giving Hoshiki a handsome hairstyle." Yet, when Miranyao saw the masterpiece beneath her daughter's hands, her face instantly darkened and her tone turned as cold as ice. What does a 3-year-old little girl know about doing hair? Ever since she had her son, Miranyao, who used to play with the world, had her heart broken with worry. Even if that was her son's twin sister, she still couldn't feel at ease. Just thinking that her son might be wronged, Miranyao wished she could immediately rush back. Renyao wished she could throw Yu, this little girl, out and subject her to family discipline, yet Yu stubbornly retorted, "I do know." Her mouth was very hard, but her actions were the exact opposite, pinching a strand of hair. She had no idea where to even start. In the video, it was clearly so easy. How did it become a difficult problem over here? Renyao watched with cold eyes and hung up the video call, sending a message to Anju at the old mansion. Anju, receiving the news, his scalp tightened as he hurriedly went upstairs. Little young Master Anju walked in, but the moment he pushed open the door, what he saw was a scene of sisterly and brotherly affection. The girl studied with a bitter and deep expression, while the little young master in front of her had his soft hair forcefully styled into a bird's nest. Seeing Anju walk in, Hoshiki's eyes lit up instantly, crying out for help with a sob. "Anju, sister, save Hoshiki! This big bad guy Hoshiki is going to ruin Hoshiki's hair." And Ju's heart melted completely, and he hurried over, attempting to rescue the little young master's hair from the young Mrs. hands. Knowing Yu's temper, he started from the point she cared about most. "Little miss, let me do it, okay? Okay? Little young master is already hungry." Sure enough, Yu pouted and obediently let go. She quietly watched as Anju brushed out a neat hairstyle in just 2 strokes, feeling filled with loss. Just at this moment, she suddenly squatted down in front of Hoshiki. "Brother, next time I will definitely succeed!" Hoshiki imitated an adult's manner and patted his sister's head. "Okay, big sister, Hoshiki believes you." Receiving comfort, Yu instantly came back to full health with full blood and nodded heavily. "Next time, I will definitely style the coolest hair in the world for my brother." Hoshiki happily kissed her on the cheek, and Yu immediately became well-behaved, taking her younger brother's hand to go downstairs. Watching this scene, Anju's motherly smile simply could not stop. Next, he took Hoshiki's other hand and walked into a walk-in closet spanning several hundred square meters. Even though he had seen this pile-like mountain of children's clothing countless times, it still opened his eyes wide. And most of the clothes here wouldn't even be worn once. This wardrobe of several hundred square meters actually had to be cleared out every 2 months. Just at this moment, Yu pointed at a handsome little suit vest. "Brother, this one looks good." Hoshiki liked it too, truly deserving of being fraternal twins. Anju immediately changed Hoshiki into it, since his guiding principle was always to prioritize the little young master's wishes. Next, the 2 little children held hands and hopped down the stairs. Downstairs in the grand hall, old Master Toshio was already waiting early in his CSST wood chair. The moment he saw them coming down, he immediately put down his teacup and stood up. "Hoshiki, this outfit today looks very spirited." The moment those words fell, Hoshiki rushed into his arms like a little calf. "Grandpa, Hoshiki is a little prince!" Old Master Toshio held his little grandson securely, not even daring to use force when patting his head for fear of messing up his hairstyle. "Our little prince, let's go eat breakfast." The dining room was laid out entirely with fresh organic food transported that very morning from the estate, and a basket of strawberries as large as Hoshiki's fist instantly caught his attention. Yu took the lead and handed a strawberry to her brother, who knew Hoshiki bit into the tip of the strawberry and adopted the principle of distributing his favor equally. "Sister eats, Grandpa eats too," being fed by his little grandson, Old Master Toshio smiled from ear to ear and piled everything Hoshiki loved right in front of him. Yet even though Hoshiki was only 3 years old, he insisted on eating by himself, for which Old Master Toshio had felt lost for quite a while. In the blink of an eye, Hoshiki put down his spoon. "Grandpa, Hoshiki is full. Let's go outside to play." Old Master Toshio gently wiped away the strawberry jam from the corner of his mouth, holding his little grandson with Yu following closely by his side. "Good. Shall Grandpa take Hoshiki to go fishing?" Old Master Toshio, despite reaching the advanced age of 90, possessed a spirit and energy better than young people. After retirement, he had picked up a hobby where he felt uncomfortable all over if he didn't touch a fishing rod for a single day. Today, he was going to take his little grandson to make those old fellows green with envy. Who knew that upon hearing they were going fishing, Hoshiki's eyes widened instantly, and he began dancing around excitedly in Grandpa's arms. "Fishing! Fishing! Grandpa, Hoshiki wants to fish too." Old Master Toshio agreed repeatedly, but Hoshiki immediately shouted, "Grandpa, there must be sisters too!" The little fellow hadn't even forgotten his sister. Yu looked eagerly at her brother, a silly, happy smile instantly blooming on her face. Her brother truly loved her best in his heart, but Lerihito quickly responded, "Rest assured, little young master, little Mrs. has been prepared as well." Old Master Toshio didn't know whether to laugh or cry and reached out to ruffle his little grandson's hair, but Hoshiki protested with a serious face. "Grandpa, Hoshiki's hair is messed up. It doesn't look good." A 3-year-old milk baby already knew that his hairstyle must not be messed up. Yet even more unexpected things were yet to come. The place where they went fishing required taking a cable car to reach. Right outside this old mansion, the Forbidden City could be seen, and after riding for a full dozen minutes, they finally arrived beside the pond. When they arrived, several old men were staring intently at the water surface, turning around all at once upon hearing movement. "Yo, isn't this my little grandson? Come quickly and let Grandpa hold you." Old Master Hikaru completely ignored Old Master Toshio and stepped forward to snatch the person from Toshio's arms. However, Old Master Toshio's face sank as he was about to flare up, but his gaze falling upon Hikaru suddenly shifted to watching a good show. Just at this moment, an elegant old lady walked up behind Hikaru. Who would have thought the old lady would unceremoniously swat away Hikaru's outstretched hand? "Your hands are so dirty, what will you do if you bring viruses to Hoshiki? Step aside and let me do it." The old lady's tone was deep and full of pressure, yet the moment she turned around, she put on a completely different face for them. "Oh dear, Hoshiki, come let Grandma hug you." Grandma missed Hoshiki to death. She was as gentle as could be. It turned out that this old lady had been a famously iron-willed woman in her youth, who back then had even brought notorious local ruffians and troublemakers to absolute submission. Watching her little grandson being aggressively snatched away, Old Master Toshio cast a cold glance at Hikaru. "Why don't you discipline her?" Hikaru silently averted his gaze. Old Master Toshio immediately sneered. "Hikaru, you're still as cowardly as ever." "That's not cowardice. That's respect. What does someone without a wife like you understand?" Hikaru retorted, and Old Master Toshio immediately countered. "You are simply a coward. If you've got guts, let's compare with the Republic era, Whoever loses is the coward. Compare, then. Do you think I'd be afraid of an old hen like you?" The two old masters, whose combined ages were nearly 200 years old, instantly locked horns. On the other side, Hoshiki was obediently staying in Grandma Hatsu's arms, letting her pinch his cheeks gently. Hatsu noticed the small pink fishing rod in Hoshiki's hand and smiled, asking how many fish she planned to catch. Who would have thought Hoshiki's little face would turn red as he clenched his fists and made a bold declaration? "This time, Hoshiki is going to catch a whole bucket. Catch them, and Grandma will make fish porridge for you to eat." Hatsu even deliberately glanced at the small bucket by his feet. Reaching just a few fish to fill it up, this was clearly custom-made exclusively for Hoshiki. Hearing that there was fish porridge to eat, Hoshiki's eyes lit up instantly. This was no ordinary fish porridge, but the unique craftsmanship of the imperial chefs. She could polish off 2 large bowls all by herself. Yet, the patience of a 3-year-old child was clearly overestimated by them. After catching 3 small fish, Hoshiki completely lost interest, threw his fishing rod aside, and ran off into the flower beds to chase butterflies. Sister Teryuyu immediately dropped her own fishing rod, picked up her brother's small pink rod, and kept her eyes locked tightly on her brother's figure. Though this was a private estate, she hadn't forgotten that not far away was a royal park with throngs of tourists. Even with 3 tracking devices on her brother, she couldn't afford to gamble on that 1 in a million chance. The little fellow wore a serious face, making the surrounding old men burst into laughter. "Old Toshio, your granddaughter at such a young age already knows how to protect her younger brother." Once those words came out, Old Master Toshio instantly broke his defense, his mood shifting from pride. "Why are those wild boys in my family so fierce? 3 in 1 litter. And all of them are girls. Every time holiday comes, it's a super multiplier headache." Old Master Toshio grew more and more depressed as he spoke, looking at someone else's well-behaved little grandson and then thinking of his own 3 troublemaking kids. Why didn't he have the fate of having a grandson? Old Master Toshio smugly cut in. "HMPH, stop staring, keep staring, and that's still my grandson." But who knew Hikaru beside him would also sigh. "Your family situation is fine. They're noisy, but they'll grow up and be fine. Unlike my family, where my daughter and son are each more rebellious than the last. That second son of mine, close to 40, insists on pursuing some spiritual vigor. The third one married some smooth-talking piece of work. If the eldest hadn't married well and managed to leave an heir for the Hikaru family, he would really be driven to death by this group of unfilial children. Every family has a scripture that is hard to chant, yet these families of theirs only grew more explosive. Weighing it all up, Old Master Toshio's family situation was still the most carefree. Speaking of the second son of the Umezu family, Manabu, who hasn't heard of his tyrannical exploits of forcefully seizing things in his youth? He originally thought this guy would either be a lifelong bachelor or play himself to death. Who would have known this fellow quietly produced 2 heirs? Not only that, coupled with Hoshiki and Yuyu, these fraternal twins, he single-handedly rounded up 4 kids. At this, the surrounding old fellows became thoroughly green with envy. What made it even more exasperating was that Manabu wasn't even married yet, but not a single person dared to say his children were illegitimate. Old Master Toshio blossomed with joy inside, while remaining calm on the outside. "You guys just worry too much. You should learn from me and cultivate your character." The moment those words came out, they immediately harvested a collection of rolling eyes. They certainly wanted to not care, but if the younger generations in their families had even half the intelligence and bottom line of the Umezu kids, they wouldn't have worried themselves into this state. Few old men sighed leisurely. Why was the Umezu family's ancestral grave constantly smoking with good fortune? Old Master Toshio saw this group was about to start up with envy, jealousy, and hatred again, and immediately changed the subject. "Old Gengen, what's going on over on your side?" Who would have thought that as soon as those words were uttered, another Old man simply shook his head. Ah, don't bring it up. It's just another mess of unclear accounts. Gengen hasn't had any mood to come fishing lately. It turned out that his youngest daughter, Yansei, who was still in college, had crippled a guy's girlfriend over some young man. Not only that, she also ruined the guy's small company. This wouldn't have been a big deal in the past, but unfortunately, it was now the internet age. Even though the Yan family suppressed the news the moment it fermented online, it couldn't stop the black hands of their opponents. With no other choice, the Yan family could only send Yansei away overnight to avoid the storm. Yet, our Hoshiki had no interest in the gossip of the old masters. He stared fixedly at a colorful butterfly, moving his short legs to approach it quietly. "Butterfly, just wait, I will definitely catch you." Who knew that the butterfly even deliberately flew back to hover in front of him a few times before flying off, acting extremely smug. Little Hoshiki grew thoroughly anxious and scrambled his two short legs to chase after it, just as the butterfly landed on a cluster of peony flowers. Hoshiki's eyes lit up as he lunged forward, plunging his entire head first into the flower bushes. The next second, the butterfly was listless in his hands, and with a soft heart, he let it go. Fine, go quickly and find your good friend, but after the butterfly flew away, Hoshiki realized he couldn't get out. Help! Hoshiki is trapped by the flowers! Just at this moment, pushing aside the leaves, he unexpectedly discovered a strange-looking auntie outside holding a child. Hush! Iki's eyes rolled around as he recalled the plot from cartoons. Bad guys were kidnapping children, waiting. Until the bad auntie completely walked away, Hoshiki finally had the courage to crawl out from the flower bushes. He needed to hurry and tell Grandpa that there was a bad egg here, but Hoshiki didn't know that during this disappearance of his, Yu on the other side was already sprinting like the wind. Little Yu had only taken a moment to change her bait, and when she looked up, her younger brother was gone. Her hand loosened, and the bait dropped straight into the water. She instantly panicked, shouting toward the back, "Grandpa, brother is gone!" "What?" Old Master Toshio's hand shook. How could he still care about any fish? He stood up abruptly. The grass was completely empty, yet Old Master Toshio remained relatively calm. The very first thing he did was open the positioning watch. Seeing the location, right here, Yu didn't say a second word and sprinted like crazy in the direction of the coordinates. Seeing his granddaughter run far away, the anxious old master didn't panic, slowly following behind her. Sure enough, the moment Yu rushed to the spot, Hoshiki gave a wah and threw himself into her arms. But before Yu could even speak, Hoshiki blurted out everything he had just seen. Upon hearing these words, the few old masters behind heard it loud and clear, their expressions instantly turning icy cold. That imposing aura would make anyone tremble just to look at it. Old Master Toshio rushed over first to pull his grandson close for a careful inspection. "Hoshiki, did that person see you?" "No," the little grandson answered, open and bright, looking completely bold. Old Master Toshio breathed a sigh of relief, but then, just thinking about how his little grandson had just been right in front of a child trafficker, he felt a wave of lingering fear. "Hoshiki, tell Grandpa from which direction that bad person left. Daring to abduct children right here is simply courting death." Following the direction pointed by Hoshiki's chubby little finger, Old Master Toshio immediately issued an order to the butler. "Old Chen, go tell the guards to ensure the safety of that child, and also notify whose family's child it is. How could they be so careless?" Butler Anju accepted the order and quickly departed, knowing clearly in his heart, how could this still be related to the little young master? That trafficker was also bold enough to dare kidnap people inside here. Wait, how did they get in? Butler Anju suddenly thought of a possibility, unless someone on the inside was colluding with the outside. Returning home, the doctor immediately gave Hoshiki a full-body checkup, confirming he was completely unharmed, but the doctor's next sentence made the whole family's heart tighten. Little young Master Hoshiki's heart might need psychological intervention. Yet the person in the family who should have been most terrified, Yuan, didn't take the matter to heart at all. He was sitting on the sofa waiting for his sister to feed him strawberries. On the contrary, his 3-year-old sister Yu looked completely frightened out of her wits. Until Hoshiki stuffed a strawberry into his mouth, did she suddenly snap awake, trembling as she asked her younger brother if he was scared. The next second, endless remorse and anger engulfed this 3-year-old child. She convinced herself that she was useless, swearing that that damn trafficker's entire family must be implicated. At the same time, the true power holder of the Umezu family, Yuan, because the ground traffic was too jammed, directly mobilized a helicopter to descend from the sky. This man, wrapped entirely in cold frost, with a disheveled suit and loose tie, walked straight inside without stopping toward Hoshiki, instantly kneeling down on one knee. "Daddy!" Hoshiki dropped his strawberry, opened his small hands, and plunged straight into Yuan's arms, rubbing his little head against him hard. "Daddy, you're finally back! Hoshiki missed you so much!" Yuan held his son, gently patting his back with a large hand while his tone turned gentle to the extreme. "Baby, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Daddy is here, baby is not afraid." Yet only the assistant behind him knew that when this gentle father heard the news, the murderous intent radiating from his entire body had directly frightened everyone in the conference room so much that no one dared to move. And even the chairman's final action before leaving was one that still gave him chills. The assistant recalled how several male colleagues had been frightened to tears on the spot before the chairman left. He had flown the helicopter all the way with a pounding heart and only dared to catch his breath at this moment. Yet, this was the very man who could turn the capital upside down, and right now he was holding his son and gently comforting him over and over again. However, the little person in his arms said, "Hoshiki is not afraid," while his voice carried a tremor, and a pair of large eyes were red, desperately holding back tears without crying. This scene made the newly rushed back Manabu and Uncle Shogo feel heartbroken to the core. Manabu rushed up to comfort him, while Shogo exchanged a trace-free glance with Yuan before casually taking out an Hermes box as if remembering something and shaking it towards Hoshiki. "A brave little child deserves a reward, oh." The box opened, and inside was actually a pink little rabbit plush toy. Its 2 eyes were made of genuine rubies. This was specially custom-made by the little uncle exclusively for our Hoshiki. Sure enough, Hoshiki, who was still holding back tears the previous second, broke into a smile the next second and extended his little hands. "Wow, little uncle, Hoshiki loves this." Shogo proudly stuffed the toy into his arms, casually pinching his little face, and instantly received 3 warning glares. Not only from Yuan, but unexpectedly also from his eldest niece and nephew. Had his status in the family already dropped this low? After the small episode, Hoshiki, having received his new toy, completely forgot his troubles, pulling his sister to play, to his heart's content in the garden. Manabu snapped pictures like crazy. Yu had a little flower stacked on top of her head while being tightly held by her younger brother. Yet, just as the children were laughing and playing, the expressions of the Umezu family men in the study gradually grew solemn. They looked at that hopping little figure in the garden with comforted gazes, but the topic they were about to discuss was enough to make the entire capital shake once again. In the study, old Master Toshio praised 3-year-old Hoshiki with a face full of pride, calling him a chosen child, not only being brave, but also unreasonably smart, knowing not to act rashly and to call adults. This kind of mindfulness, let alone at 3 years old, even among adults, very few possessed it. Yet Shogo beside him had his brows tightly locked. This is ultimately a 3-year-old toddler, second brother. Hoshiki must have been frightened. A psychological doctor must intervene tonight. Yuan replied with an expressionless, calm utterance of 4 words, already arranged. Just at this moment, a trace of ruthlessness flashed in Shogo's eyes. "That damned thing!" Old Master Toshio calmly stopped him. "We abide by the law. He will receive the most severe punishment." As his words fell, the study fell into a dead silence. Yuan finally spoke up to reveal that startling inside story. That wasn't any trafficker at all. It was a disaster brought upon themselves by the Yan family. It turned out that the banished Yansei of the Yan family had once driven someone's personal and professional life to ruin, and their daughter's remains have yet to be found. Therefore, those parents joined forces with cleaning lady Aiko to kidnap the Yan family's only granddaughter, preparing to perish together. But they never expected this plan to cross paths with Hoshiki. As a result, when rescue arrived, the Yan family's child had been tortured beyond recognition within a mere half hour and was still undergoing emergency treatment in the hospital. The Umezu family originally had no wish to meddle in the Yan family's grievances. But they had no business dragging Hoshiki into it. Even if Hoshiki bumped into it himself, that still wouldn't do. This was the overbearing nature of the Umezu family. That night, when Yuan carefully placed the soundly sleeping Hoshiki onto the bed, the entire room was frighteningly quiet, yet no matter how deeply Hoshiki slept, those little hands still clutched tightly onto his sleeve, full of insecurity. Yuan spent a great deal of effort to break free. Just thinking of that chief culprit, Yansei made his teeth itch with hatred. A little girl whose feathers hadn't even grown fully should really learn a hard lesson. The next second, he silently closed the bedroom door. Outside the door, two straight-backed young ladies already wore faces full of worry, and standing behind them was a bespectacled man, Tengu, an international top-tier psychologist and also a member of the Umezu family's medical team. Yet, ironically, he had never been put to use because everyone in the Umezu family was abnormal while simultaneously looking down on psychological treatment. Never did he expect to receive a call today, with the reason being that the mysterious little young master had suffered a shock. Just at this moment, an icy gaze suddenly landed upon him. Tengu felt a chill all over and respectfully called out, "Mr. Umezu." He had long heard of this man's crazy exploits. A single glance from him left him chilled to the bone without even the courage to look him in the eye. Yuan only gave him a cold glance, first issuing an order to the two younger sisters. "You two go back." The two young ladies, though dissatisfied, had zero ability to disobey him. Then he turned around, surveying Tengu with a condescending look, and spoke word for word. "Baby's subconscious is still uneasy. I don't care what method you use, you must make baby never remember those things again." Tengu was completely stunned. Was this still that lunatic Yuan? Hearing him say so much for the first time, it actually embodied a father's deep worry for his son. Tengu immediately assured him, "Rest assured, sir, the little young master will have a good dream tonight." Yuan only let out a soft hum and pushed open the door to enter. Tengu instinctively followed, softening his footsteps. Yet when his gaze swept across the room, he was completely dumbfounded. The house he had spent half a lifetime and tens of millions to buy in the capital wasn't even half the size of the little young master's bedroom. That wasn't even all. The ceiling was a dazzling starry sea, the fortress. The entire floor was covered with top-tier carpets, and even the table corners were shaved into rounded edges. Even more exaggerated was that the plush toys scattered everywhere were actually embedded with auction collection-grade gems. Yet, Tengu instantly realized that anything that could end up at an auction could only be defective scraps that the little young master didn't want. A bold thought popped into his head. If he could just pluck off a single gem from up there, he could directly lie flat for the rest of his life. Just at this moment, Yuan low-key tucked the quilt in for the little young master and touched his forehead to confirm he had no fever before finally relaxing. Then he plopped himself right into the pink little sofa beside the bed. His height of 1.90 meters forcefully made a children's sofa look like a dragon throne. He had no intention of leaving. Tengu's scalp went numb, and he could only begin the treatment under this immense pressure. The soft murmuring sound echoed in the room, and fortunately, Hoshiki remained cooperative throughout without waking up. Until Tengu boarded the car to go home did he realize his back was already soaked in cold sweat. However, right on the second day, little Hoshiki, waking up from a sound sleep, extended his hand with his eyes still closed. The familiar embrace scooped him right up. The newly awakened Hoshiki didn't even open his eyes before planting a noisy kiss all over Yuan's face, leaving him covered in saliva. Yet Yuan didn't care to wipe it, anxiously and nervously pursuing the question, "Baby, did you have any nightmares?" Who would have thought Hoshiki would open his big eyes wide and shake his head? No! Hoshiki had a super-duper wonderful dream. Yuan instantly went wild with joy, immediately deciding to give last night's therapist Tengu a pay raise. The next second, holding Hoshiki downstairs, he found the atmosphere wasn't quite right. The whole family was sitting downstairs in dead silence, the air practically frozen. Until hearing the movement at the staircase did everyone raise their heads in unison. Big Sister Yu transformed into a little cannonball, thud-thud-thudding up the stairs to give her younger brother a fierce bear hug. The two cute little people gently and intimately snuggled, walking hand in hand down the stairs while the tall Yuan followed behind like a bodyguard. Seeing Hoshiki's cheeks flushed red and his vibrant green little outfit radiating vitality, the family finally breathed a collective sigh of relief. Yet, old Master Toshio opened his arms wide. "Come, precious little grandson, come quickly to Grandpa and let Grandpa hold you." The others could only watch helplessly as the little darling plunged into old Master Toshio's arms. Just then, the youngest uncle, who had given up all hope of getting a hug, could only watch helplessly as the little darling threw himself into the old man's arms. Wearing a handsome but sullen expression, he continued to put on an act. The poor little uncle seemed to have been left uncared for by everyone. A 30-something grown man acting all pitiful made the Umezu family's teeth ache. Yuan was even filled with utter disgust. Yet Hoshiki took it seriously and offered milky, babyish comfort. "Uncle, don't cry, Hoshiki likes you." Shogo instantly beamed with triumph. "As expected, our baby Hoshiki is the best, unlike certain people." The next second, Hoshiki proceeded to comfort everyone else as well, leaving Shogo dumbfounded on the spot. "Second brother, our baby is only 3 years old and he's already a master of balancing water bowls." Yet he forgot that Hoshiki was only a 3-year-old baby. The little fellow blinked his large, clueless eyes. "What is a water balancing master?" Shogo instantly told the truth. Old Master Toshio seized the opportunity to tear into him fiercely. "Hoshiki, don't listen to your little uncle. He just talks random nonsense without any culture." A single sentence left Shogo, a top university graduate, utterly defeated as he unexpectedly found himself associated with lacking culture. Fortunately, Hoshiki's attention was quickly diverted, and he couldn't wait to share a wonderful dream. "Grandpa!" Hoshiki dreamed of a candy castle where there were all kinds of little cakes and chocolates, and the clouds were all cotton candy. The little fellow danced around excitedly while the whole family listened with doting, smiling faces, imagining that sweet-tasting dream world. However, just as the whole family was immersed in this warmth, Hoshiki finished telling his dream and suddenly tightened his little face, asking a question that caused everyone's smiles to freeze instantly. "Uncles, Daddy and sisters and brothers, why aren't you guys going to work today?" His small brows instantly twisted into a knot. Could our family have gone bankrupt? As soon as those words fell, his little face looked more bitter than drinking medicine. In the future, is Hoshiki going to have to go wandering like on TV the next second? Hoshiki used both little hands to clutch his head in agony, letting out a miserable cry. "Hoshiki doesn't want to, Daddy. Hoshiki doesn't want to go wander or sleep on the streets." The little fellow had already imagined the grand annual drama of the whole family being kicked out of their home to sleep in garbage cans. Yet, a group of adults were dumbfounded on the spot, completely floored by this divine imagination. Just at this moment, only Sister Yu rushed up and threw her arms around her younger brother with a serious face, heavily patting her chest to guarantee to him, "Brother, don't be afraid. Our family will not run out of money. If we really run out of money, Sister will give you all her pocket money. Sister will raise you." In 3-year-old Yu's heart, her New Year's money was absolute private property that couldn't be taken away even by bankruptcy, and it was more than enough to raise her younger brother. "Really? Sister, you're so good." Hoshiki was instantly healed, and the two little ones immediately shared a warm kitty hug. This milky declaration finally allowed the adults to snap out of the shock of, "Our family is going bankrupt," leaving them all between laughter and tears, while even Yuan weakly rubbed his temples. Because it seems it is time to let this state affairs worrying little fellow get acquainted with his family's wealth. Before he could even speak, Big Brother Shogo was the first to lose it, bursting out into a sudden snort of laughter. He pinched Hoshiki's little cheek, his eyes overflowing with doting fondness. "Baby, even if we really went bankrupt, Big Brother could still afford to raise you." Bankruptcy and sleeping on the streets. This was simply the funniest joke of the year. A lean camel is still bigger than a horse, let alone the Umezu family, which never puts all its eggs in one basket. Not to mention the whole family, even Big Brother Shogo couldn't help but chuckle secretly, knowing the shares in his hands alone were enough to support 100 Hoshikis. Who would dare say he was just a young master who only knew how to eat, drink, and play? Just as everyone was doubled over with laughter, Yuan suddenly spoke up, a single sentence making the entire room instantly quiet. "Father, I will take Hoshiki to the company later." Old Master Toshio immediately concurred, only giving a single instruction: ensure his safety. Thus, Anju efficiently packed a whole backpack. Yuan carried him with one hand, and big sister Yu proudly followed right behind. Little did they know, just driving out of the private area of their family's old residence took a full half-hour until a landmark building appeared before their eyes. The letters of the YM Group stood tall, displaying an undeniable dominance. Yet this top-tier business car didn't even look at the main entrance, directly driving into a mysterious underground entrance instead. The next second, Yuan got out holding his son, while Big Sister hopped down like a little adult, landing firmly on her feet. Underneath their feet was not some ordinary garage, but a private, exclusive garage comparable to a tourist attraction, exuding a luxurious atmosphere that ordinary employees could never even hope to see. Yet this father and his children were long used to it, walking straight into an exclusive elevator that was actually a panoramic sightseeing elevator, shooting straight to the top floor of the building. As the elevator shot upward, Hoshiki excitedly plastered himself against the glass and yelled, "Wow, Daddy, the cars have turned into ants." Yuan gave a doting chuckle, because once the elevator doors opened, the entire 28th floor was his sole private office area. The moment the elevator doors slid open, Assistant Rihito was already respectfully waiting outside. "Uncle Rihito," Hoshiki greeted cheerfully, his two little legs dangling back and forth. Assistant Rihito instantly beamed, feeling that coming to work was completely worth it. Yet the even more exaggerated part was yet to come. Before they even stepped into the office, Hoshiki's milky greeting echoed through the entire secretariat. "Hello, handsome big brothers." The next second, the entire secretariat, which survived solely on coffee, turned around collectively. In their eyes, there was no longer President Yuan, only the little prince in his arms. "Hello, little prince." That neat, uniform, enthusiastic greeting made Yuan frown slightly as he carried his son straight into the office without looking back, leaving a chorus of wails behind him. "Woe is us! The chairman is too overbearing." My God, if the little prince came every day, I could fall in love with working to death. On the other side, the secretariat was still wailing over failing to gain the little prince's love. "Can't the universe just give me such a sweet son, HMPH? Even if it did, you couldn't afford to raise him." Yet they had no idea that an even sweeter scene was playing out inside the president's office right now. The moment Hoshiki was set down, he grabbed Big Sister and ran over to a row of shelves, pointing at several small flower pots and exclaiming, "Sister, look quickly! It really sprouted!" It turned out this was a seed he had casually planted the last time he ate strawberries. However, Yuan looked at his son's surprised face and merely raised an eyebrow. He knew very well that the little fellow's casual burying could never possibly sprout. No one could have imagined that the pots he planted had long been quietly disposed of, and the potted plants here now were identical knockoffs Yuan had secretly bought. Not only did this top-tier overlord pull a switcheroo for his son, but he had also converted his own office into his son's exclusive amusement park, where a full 2/3 of the space was filled with Hoshiki's toys and playground facilities, while his own working area was squeezed into a tiny corner instead. Right after that, Hoshiki pulled Big Sister into a drawing competition, even setting down a wager. If I win, Hoshiki has to give me 2 candies. Big Sister Yu hesitated. But if younger brother eats candy, he'll get bugs in his teeth. Who would have thought Hoshiki's little head would be unexpectedly righteous? Hoshiki won't eat them. I'll save them and eat them when I grow up. That way I won't get bugs in my teeth anymore. The little fellow even bobbed his little head heavily, feeling like he was mega smart. And his doting big sister Yu didn't even have to think twice before agreeing to it. Yet they didn't know that every single word of this whispered conversation was heard loud and clear by their overbearing CEO daddy. Yuan just wore a half smile, knowing full well, save them? He strongly doubted it. Right after that, the competition began, and the 2 little ones sprawled on the carpet, each looking more serious than the last. It was just a pity that on little Hoshiki's drawing board there were only a few crooked stick figures. Yet he still felt quite smug, admiring his work for a long time before adding a few more strokes to the stick figure. The next second, he held up his drawing board. "Sister, I'm done." The 2 little ones had agreed not to peek and to let Daddy be the judge. The moment those words fell, Hoshiki trotted over on his short legs, threw his arms around Yuan's long legs, and cried, "Daddy, come be our judge, okay?" Looking at his son's expectant, wide eyes, Yuan's heart instantly melted into a puddle of water. He put down his pen and scooped the little fellow right onto his lap. Yu very consciously placed her drawing board on the desk. Yuan cast a casual glance at it, his face completely devoid of ripples as he calmly spat out 2 words. Not bad. Those 2 words were said purely out of consideration that it was drawn for Hoshiki. However, right at this moment, Hoshiki suddenly stood up from his lap, planting his 2 little legs firmly on his thighs as he impatiently leaned down to look at his sister's drawing. At the very tip of the drawing board was a chubby-faced, crew-cut Q version of Hoshiki wearing matching little overalls. Hoshiki's eyes instantly went round as saucers. She tugged at his own little overalls, comparing back and forth, and cried out in surprise. "Sister is so amazing. It looks exactly like Hoshiki." The little fellow lovingly stroked the flower petals on the drawing. Yuyu's eyes curved into crescent moons with pride, yet she said with her mouth, "Younger brother is even more amazing. Let me see yours." Hoshiki's confidence instantly burst through the roof as he tilted his little head to show off to Daddy. "Mine is definitely better than Hoshiki's. Wait, better than Sister's." Yuan didn't speak, but inwardly muttered to himself, could a 3-year-old milk tot really draw something that isn't a stick figure? He maintained deep skepticism, considering this kid usually only knew how to scribble randomly. However, before he could even react, Yu said with absolute certainty, "Yep, younger brother is amazing," until Hoshiki proudly hoisted up his own drawing board. The next second, both of them plunged into a dead silence, the air seemingly freezing over. Hoshiki looked left at Daddy, then right at Sister, asking in confusion, "Why aren't you guys talking? Does Hoshiki's drawing look good or not?" Yu's mouth opened and closed again. "Well, all right." Her voice was so quiet it was practically inaudible, yet Hoshiki automatically interpreted it as Sister being floored by his artistic skills. Thus she turned her head, fixing those big eyes filled with eager anticipation on Yuan. "Daddy, praise me." Yuan's mouth twitched frantically. Meeting his son's clear eyes, harsh words simply refused to come out of his mouth. In the end, he squeezed out a single "good," even hanging a trace of a smile at the corner of his mouth. "Baby drew very well, very unique to your own perspective." This single praise made Yu doubt the meaning of life on the spot. Could it be that she just didn't understand her younger brother's art? The praised Hoshiki had no idea his sister was already questioning reality, and instead gleefully pointed at the stick figure holding a little person on the board. "Daddy, look! This is you, and this is Hoshiki playing high flyers on the toys." Yuan followed the direction she pointed, falling silent once more. He stared at those few twisted, squiggly lines, his lips pressed tightly together. As he managed to force out a few words, Daddy sees it. Baby drew it very vividly. The moment those words dropped, the affirmed little fellow instantly got pumped up. Next, she pointed right to the middle claw-like shape holding a cane. This is Grandpa. Then she pointed right next to Grandpa. This is Big Uncle and Big Aunt. And this, and this. She pointed to a little head with two big circles drawn around it. This is Big Sister, this is Second Sister, and Hoshiki, and this one too. She suddenly stopped, pointing to a distorted stick figure with countless lines drawn on its head, and asked mysteriously, Daddy, take a guess. Who is she? Yuan looked helpless. It's your sister. Wow, Daddy is so amazing. You guessed right. She sighed inwardly. With only one curly-haired Shogo in the entire family, was that really so hard to guess? But the next second, Yuan's evil smile bloomed. She decided she wouldn't suffer alone. Such a wonderful thing must be shared with the whole family so that Baby drew so wonderfully, we must let Grandpa and the others take a look. Yay! 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 Hoshiki immediately picked up Yuan's phone and skillfully opened their family chat group, snapping picture after picture to send over, complete with milky voice notes attached. This is Hoshiki's drawing of our family. Isn't Hoshiki awesome? The characteristic twang in that little milk voice couldn't be hidden at all. Yet the group chat remained dead silent for quite a while. After sending the messages, the little fellow ran off with Sister to negotiate their prize, leaving only Yuan holding his phone with a malicious grin playing at the corner of his mouth. At this moment, whether it was old Master Toshio drinking tea at the old residence, Shogo holding a meeting, or even Shogo inspecting the industries, everyone unlocked their phones, zooming in and out on those pictures, trying desperately to find their own reflection among those stick figures. The instant old Master Toshio saw that drawing, a mouthful of tea shot straight out. Cough, cough, cough! He was nearly sent to the afterlife by this painting. Butler Anju was frightened out of his wits, rushing forward to pat his back while pulling out his phone to call a doctor. But old Master Toshio waved him off. No, I'm fine. Immediately after, he handed over his phone with an expression that defied description. Old Anju, come take a look. Does this look like me? Butler Anju lowered his head and understood instantly. But how was he supposed to answer this? In the end, he squeezed out a gentle smile. Leader, you can actually still make out a little bit of it. He solemnly added, young Master Hoshiki is only 3 years old, and this is full of childish innocence, which is truly a rare sight in our family. As soon as those words came out, old Master Toshio's imperial heart instantly soared, his spine straightening straight up as if he were the one being praised. Old Anju has an eye for talent. The next second, he directly issued an order. Go print out Hoshiki's drawing and hang it on the wall of my study. Once Butler Anju left, old Master Toshio opened the group chat and directly fired off a long voice note. On the other end, Yuan finished listening and expressionlessly flipped his phone face down on the desk. Meanwhile, inside a VIP lounge of a certain top-tier brand, Shogo repeatedly zoomed in on that picture, finally locating the part resembling himself from those twisted, winding lines, and couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. This caused the regional manager and store director standing before him to instantly stiffen up, wondering what on earth had set this young master off. But the next second, Shogo saved the picture into Hoshiki's exclusive album and turned back to resume his noble demeanor. He swept his gaze across the crowd. This season's collection is selling quite well. Don't be nervous, I'm just taking a casual look. Since they were suffering internally, how could they not be nervous? This young master was not merely an investor in their brand. More than that, his identity was enough to strike terror into everyone's hearts. Causing them to lose their rice bowls would take nothing more than a single glance from this young master. Yes, we understand. Please don't be nervous. These are our new arrivals. At the same time, on the rooftop of a top university in the capital, Raiko and Tsukiko found themselves unusually quiet for once, staring at their phones in silence for a long time. Who would have thought that Teiji would walk in and spot the two of them standing frozen like statues? He curiously walked up and draped an arm over the sister's shoulders. What are you looking at that's so strange? I came in and neither of you even noticed. He instinctively lowered his head, and the image on both of their phones, which they hadn't yet had time to save, instantly came into view. In an instant, all three fell into a dead silence. Taeji's eyes widened as he looked at it over and over again, finding it utterly unbelievable. Who drew this? Why is it so abstract? Stick figures? I haven't seen anything like this in ages. His tone was heavy with suppressed laughter, yet tinged with a hint of nostalgia. However, this laughter drew dangerous glares from Reiko and Tsukiko. What? Have you seen it before? Reiko asked coldly. Right after that, Tsukiko also spoke up. This is one of a kind. Who else has this kind of artistic flair? It turned out this drawing was precisely the family portrait their family baby specially drew for them. Although a bit abstract, since it was drawn by younger brother, it was automatically the best. Yet Taeji was completely dumbfounded, pointing at those crooked stick figures in absolute disbelief. Just this? You're sure? He even suspected these two sisters had lost their minds. Are your brains broken? How can you say such heartless things? Truly, you don't need to go see a doctor. Taeji bluntly felt that they were simply possessed by evil. As a result, the next second, Reiko's traditionally cold face instantly carried a dangerous aura. Say that drawing again. Taeji stiffened his neck, preparing to stubbornly retort, I'll say it. Today, even if the Jade Emperor himself came, But meeting Reiko's expressionless eyes, the words in his mouth instantly stuck, abruptly swallowing them back down. That loudmouthed Taeji immediately changed his face, smiling sweetly. It also has artistic flair. I think what you guys said makes total sense. He nodded frantically, terrified that the sisters wouldn't believe him. To protect this friendship, Taeji began frantically self-deprecating, terrified the two sisters wouldn't believe it. It's just that I lack artistic flair and can't understand this drawing. Our family is just a bunch of roughnecks. Yet, the two Umezu sisters looked utterly satisfied, once again casting their gazes back onto their phones. Exactly, it's just that you lack artistic flair and can't understand the meaning behind Hoshiki's words. Tsukiko even smiled gently, zooming in on that drawing and deliberately pointing right at herself. Look, this is our family portrait. This is me. Doesn't it look just like me? Taeji fell silent on the spot. Exactly where does this abstract stick figure look anything like her? Who knew Tsukiko's next sentence would directly call him out? Don't you think Hoshiki's drawing has a lot of character? Drawn by Little Prince Hoshiki. Reiko immediately nodded in agreement. Taeji instantly understood, forcing out a smile. It really has a lot of character. I was just saying, who could draw this so well? Turns out, it's the Little Prince. Good grief, so the root of it was right here? Meanwhile, at that very moment, inside the top-floor conference room of JM Entertainment, the atmosphere was heavy to the extreme. Aiken, surrounded by others, was casually listening to a report when his phone suddenly vibrated a few times. He casually tapped it open, and his gaze was instantly locked firmly onto what was above. Surprisingly, it was the family chat group, featuring an extremely characteristic child's doodle. Aiken zoomed in on the picture, his lips twitching fiercely as he couldn't help letting out a chuckle. In an instant, the entire conference room fell pin-drop silent. Even the planning manager, who had been speaking with great enthusiasm, froze in place, doubting his life. Was what he just presented really that funny? Yet Aiken didn't even raise his head, simply spitting out two cold words. Continue. Everyone dared not guess, and could only bite the bullet and keep going. Meanwhile, the assistant on the side understood immediately. He saw that Aiken's expression was so gentle and relaxed, a stark contrast to his usual cynical attitude in the business world. The assistant instantly realized that the only one capable of making the president look like this was none other than that little prince at home. You must know that the assistant was Aiken's closest confidant. He knew the president's background inside and out. In the past, Aiken was clearly that capable, yet cynical, romantic, and flamboyant young master of a wealthy family. All year round, various handsome men and beauties of elite circles surrounded him, drawn not only by resources, but thoroughly captivated by his personal charm. Who would have thought that one day, this outward-bound, cynical, yet ruthless and merciless big shot would completely change? The assistant clearly remembered that day when he received a special task, to bid for a pair of red-crowned cranes at an auction, which turned out to be a gift for his little nephew. When Aiken said those words, The delight in his eyes was a surprise the assistant had never seen before. Ever since then, the assistant's job inexplicably expanded, weaving luxury brand model parts and various tiny custom costumes for the little prince. From initial shock to present calmness, the assistant had long gotten used to it. Because whenever he ran into his little nephew, the president would instantly transform into a completely different person, a doting uncle. Yet in front of outsiders, he remained that capital giant pressing down on the heads of the entertainment industry, making stars tremble in fear. Meanwhile, back at the Umezu family's old residence, before the car had even come to a complete stop, old Master Toshio was already waiting outside. He didn't even wait for Yuan to step out, before impatiently pulling Hoshiki down from the other side. "Aigu, Hoshiki, it's been so long, did you miss Grandpa?" As it turned out, the old master had specifically run over to brag to his old friends earlier, instantly ruining those old fellows' moods for fishing. Those defeated old men even scolded their own younger generation to pieces upon returning home. Yet here, old Master Toshio was completely oblivious to how much chaos he had caused. Yuan and his son didn't get a single glance from the old master from start to finish. They walked into the living room and finally understood why the old master was so urgent and overjoyed. Just see, on the living room coffee table, beautifully framed pictures were prominently displayed, and inside were none other than Hoshiki's abstract stick-figure doodles. Yuan cast a questioning look at butler Anju nearby, who smiled and nodded with a single meaning. It was the old master's idea. Yuan helplessly loosened his tie and slumped onto the sofa. Yet that grandfather-grandson duo felt no sense of absurdity at all. Seeing his supersized drawing, Hoshiki bounced with excitement. "Wah! Grandpa, it's Hoshiki's drawing. It got so big, Grandpa." The little fellow stretched out his chubby little arms, unable to reach across both sides of the picture frame at all. "That's right, this is the family portrait Hoshiki drew for us. Grandpa prepared this so Grandpa can look at it every single day." "Grandpa is the best." The little fellow raised both hands, nodding his head frantically like a baby chick. Watching this scene, Yuan had no doubt that Hoshiki wished he could even lift both little feet to agree. Old Master Toshio was simply thrilled to pieces. Just who on earth did this little brat take after, being so blindingly narcissistic before he was even fully weaned? Yet Yuan completely forgot that back in his youth, he was the epitome of arrogance, acting like even the Jade Emperor himself had to rank second. Suddenly, a bright spark flashed in Yuan's eyes. He was indeed his son, identical to his own youth, possessing a terrifyingly clear self-awareness. So he leisurely crossed his legs, casually tapping his knee while watching the grandfather and grandson earnestly discuss how to display this artistic masterpiece more prominently and with more flair. By evening, when the Umezu family gathered around the dining table, the little fellow even held up a drawing larger than his own palm, impatiently showing off this masterpiece of poetry. Facing such an excited little fellow with a flushed face, what else could everyone do but silently understand that it was time to put on their real acting skills? Everyone at the table exchanged knowing glances, then broke out into simultaneous applause, showering Hoshiki with endless praises that cost nothing. As a result, the little fellow ate half a bowl of rice, more than usual, even falling asleep with a smile on his face. This left his old father, Yuan, utterly amused, yet exasperated. This little fellow was so easily hyped up by a few sweet words, he thought to himself that he really needed to let the kid see more of the world. Lest he get scammed away by a little bit of candy in the future, he'd definitely get conned blind. However, what the adults thought didn't matter. Little Hoshiki had an incomparably joyful dream that night. Only he didn't expect that upon waking up, he had successfully forgotten it entirely. The next day was Anju's turn on duty, personally picking out clothes for the little prince Hoshiki as his private butler. Able to hold Hoshiki the entire time, Anju was so thrilled he was practically flying. Once the clothes were chosen and his hair was styled, when Hoshiki came downstairs, breakfast was already neatly laid out. Still his favorite nutritious meals, meticulously matched with full color, aroma, and taste. Just as he finished eating, old Master Toshio, dressed in white casual wear, walked in full of vigor, clearly having just finished practicing Tai Chi. Looking across the entire family, The most leisurely ones were probably just the retired old master and Hoshiki, because Tsukiko, who was born on the exact same day, was already up and taking classes on the second floor, taught by a professional tutor. You heard that right. A 3-year-old child's schedule was even fuller than a listed company CEO's. Everything Umezu family members should or shouldn't learn all had to be introduced right from the start. Even younger siblings like Manabu and Saki experienced the exact same thing back then. However, Hoshiki alone was an astonishing exception. Those courses the sisters fought tooth and nail to study were classes Hoshiki only sat in on out of curiosity before straight up announcing he quit. Up until now, the only thing he managed to stick with were those mindset enlightenment classes that came with mini-games every time. After all, the early childhood educator would lead him through all sorts of fun, interesting games and crafts. So when Hoshiki finished eating his breakfast leisurely and learned from Anju that his sister was currently in class, the little fellow instantly abandoned the idea of going to look for his sister, pulling his little feet back abruptly right midway. The old master, who had just come downstairs, chuckled and shook his head and pinched Hoshiki's little cheek, purposely asking, "Hoshiki, do you hate studying that much? Grandpa thinks the teacher teaches quite well." This was precisely the only headache for the Umezu family. You must know that in the Umezu family, where everyone was an academic powerhouse, studying was as easy as drinking water. Whether it was old Master Toshio in his youth or Yuan, not a single one ever made anyone worry about their studies. Who would have known that Hoshiki would turn out to be such a precious anomaly? Having zero interest in studying and absolutely unable to sit still. No matter the subject or the teacher, this little ancestor could only last 10 minutes at most. Yet the problem wasn't that he was slow. Quite the opposite, the little grandson was exceptionally smart, just purely averse to it. The only thing that brought them comfort was that he didn't reject every single course. At least he quite enjoyed those willpower enlightenment classes. Thinking of this, the old master dried his hands and walked over, taking the pouty, frowning little fellow by the hand. Truly, whenever studying was mentioned, he instantly turned into a little crying face. The whole family had long been used to it. "Grandpa, isn't sister's class boring?" Hoshiki looked up and complained in a milky voice, "My head is sprouting stars from it." The old master pondered for quite a while before realizing this meant feeling dizzy, leaving him instantly amused, yet exasperated. He gently poked the little fellow's brow, not daring to use any force. "Fine, if it sprouts stars, then we won't study. Anyway, our Hoshiki is only 3 years old, no rush. As for your sister," the old master paused, "she must like it. At least she doesn't get dizzy the moment she hears about class." "Sister likes it?" Hoshiki climbed onto the sofa, cupping his head with both little hands, full of puzzlement. How can anyone in this world like doing things that make your head spin? Anyway, Hoshiki didn't like it. He wrinkled his little nose. "Grandpa, I like Teacher Wang. When is Teacher Wang coming?" This Teacher Wang was the tutor who brought him and Tsukiko to do all kinds of puzzle games, where every game was novel and interesting, leaving the two little ones eagerly looking forward to it. "Grandpa, Teacher Wang said he's going to teach us how to make a little lantern. When the time comes, I'm going to make a big, bright lantern for Grandpa." Hearing that his little grandson was doing crafts and still thinking of him, the old master was touched to a mess. Just as he was about to say something, Butler Anju suddenly walked in from outside. "Old Anju, what is it?" The old master restrained his smile. Butler Anju slightly bowed and reported in a low voice, "Leader, people from the Yan family have arrived, and they brought that little fairy along." Unexpectedly, hearing these words, the old master only calmly took a sip of tea. "They're here? Then let them in." He didn't stand up, but instead straightened up his little grandson who was dangling his feet and sat him properly. Then he casually stuffed the little fellow's favorite doll into his arms. Hoshiki hugged the stuffed toy, opening a pair of clear, big eyes, and asked curiously, "Grandpa, who is coming?" Old Master patted his head with a loving expression. "It's that little friend you saved the other day coming to thank our brave little hero." The little fellow tilted his head and suddenly blurted out, Is she handsome? This question actually left the old master momentarily speechless. He paused for a moment before uncertainly nodding. Pretty good, I suppose. After all, given the Yan family's genetics, she shouldn't be ugly. Yet this little grandson of his was, to use modern phrasing, an absolute looks-maxing connoisseur. Thinking of this, the old master suddenly became a bit unsure if that Yan family girl could catch his little Hushiki's eye. Right as the old master was lost in thought, Butler Anju had already let a few people in. Leading them was an elder of similar age to the old master, the Yan family's anchor, Hikaru. Behind him followed a woman and a man, and right between the two was a child as silent as a shadow. The old master immediately stood up to welcome them, showing no trace of his previous indifference. "Old fellow, you're here, come," he greeted, then nodded to the two younger adults. "You guys take a seat too." As Butler Anju quietly poured tea and then silently retired, the Yan family's attitude was lowered to the absolute minimum, with Hikaru looking especially full of gratitude. "Old Umiju, our visit today is truly to thank little Hoshiki. If it weren't for his early discovery, I'm afraid by the time we arrived, we would only have found a corpse." The moment these words dropped, the atmosphere instantly grew heavy. Hikaru turned his head to look at the little boy sitting neatly on the sofa, Hoshiki. "Grandpa Yan, hello!" The little fellow hugged his doll and smiled sweetly and obediently. "Grandpa Yan wants to thank you too for saving Big Sister Tin." Finishing that, Hikaru immediately waved to the silent little granddaughter beside him. "Tin, come over here. This is the Hoshiki older brother who saved you." The little girl, who had been lifeless ever since she walked through the door, finally reacted upon hearing this. She suddenly raised her head, her eyes staring straight at that handsome and cute little boy. It took her 2 full seconds to squeeze 2 words out of her throat. "Thank you." Her voice was so quiet it was practically inaudible, and once she finished speaking, her whole face instantly flushed red. Seeing the girl's appearance, the old master furrowed his brows tightly. This child wasn't just simply frightened. In his memory, this child used to be extremely lively. Why had she turned out like this now? Hikaru let out a long sigh, and the girl's parents wore expressions full of melancholy. The doctors say Tin is suffering from psychological trauma. Stopping right there, they dared not say more, terrified of triggering the child again. Sister went to school to get her textbooks, but unexpectedly,